Okay, and I'll get David a co-host and ready to go.
All right, let me know when David's a co-host and we'll get going.
Hi, can I just say that, sorry that this is Kay, so I don't know if you want to change, I'm on the phone.
Got it, Kay.
Okay, so you'll take care of that, Glenn. Well, good. Good morning, everyone, and welcome on your Labor Day weekend coming to LANCC, because we need to help our neighborhoods out. Anyway, so welcome. And David, are you taking the role? You're doing it, right?
Yeah, just if everybody can rename to show their neighborhood council and whether they're primary or alternate, that would be great. That's how we do it.
Thank you, David. I appreciate that. Okay, moving on. Next to the approval of the minutes. The minutes are in the Google Drive. I hope everybody's had a chance to take a look at them. Can I get a motion to move the minutes forward to get approved?
I'll move. Jennifer Goody.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, do I have a second?
This is Lydia. I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Lydia. Okay, with that said, is there any changes to the minutes? Seeing no hands, let's just move right to the vote. Glenn, can you explain the voting process real quick?
Yes, there's one vote per neighborhood council. Hopefully your council is designated representative or alternate, only one vote per council. Use the reactions at the bottom of your Zoom screen, reaction icon. If you click on that, you'll see in the second row, a green circle with a check that represents a yes vote. A red, the next one, the red with the X, that's a no vote. And all the way to the right is a white coffee cup. We use that for abstentions. One vote per neighborhood council. Go ahead and put your votes in now. It'll automatically tally.
All right, we'll give it a few more seconds. Everybody, if you are the designated or the alternate, please vote right now. So we can move on to the meeting. Okay, Glenn, I don't really see any more movement, so can you take the vote real quick?
This time it's got 10 yes and 1 abstention.
Okay, you got that, David?
Working on it.
Okay. If everybody could just keep the vote up, we're going to move on to the next item. And did Jennifer York say that she's on her phone, but I can't change her name yet? I saw her name in the...
Kay Hartman.
Oh, Kay Hartman. Oh, okay. I thought it was Jennifer or Jamie York. I apologize for that. Okay, moving on. Are there any candidates running in the runoff election in November? Any hands? Not seeing any? Well, we'll try that again next month. Okay, discussion of possible action to create a questionnaire for the candidates, right? Now, this was brought forth by part of the working group. If you have the agenda, it is listed there. It has eight questions, and it just gives the history of the neighborhood councils that was taken directly off the Dunn website. And then there's some verbiage at the very bottom that basically we want your commitment to work with neighborhood councils. Or can we get somebody to move this? Nobody wants to move it? Well,
this is Lydia. I'll move it.
Okay, we have Lydia Grant from Sunland who moved it. Do we have a second?
I will second David Rockello.
Thank you, David. Do we have any comments on it? Seeing no comments. Okay, let's just.
Liz has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't see. Oh, Liz, go right ahead. You need to unmute yourself. I've asked you to unmute. There you go, Liz.
Michael.
Welcome.
I would like to see a question added as to what they think the strengths are of the neighborhood councils and what they would look to change.
Can you put that in the chat so that everybody can see it?
Okay.
And also, where would you like it in the questionnaire?
Towards the beginning, before they get into the nitty gritty, so it's more of an open question.
So like make it as B and then move everything down?
Yeah, B or C, yeah. It'd probably B.
Take your pick. I
I'll
think
go for B.
Okay, then there we go. All right. Any comments on that amendment? Okay, can we have somebody second that amendment?
This is Lydia. I'll second it.
Thank you, Lydia. Any more comments on it? With that said, let's take the vote for the actual amendment of adding a between A and B that's currently there, a B, and can you read it again, Liz, real quick?
Okay, I'm just trying to type at the same time. What do you think the neighborhood councils do well, and what do you think you would like to see changed?
Okay. Anybody have any other hands up? So let's just go to the vote. Again, Glenn, can you explain it?
One vote per neighborhood council. Use the reaction icon at the bottom of your screen. Green circle check is a yes, red X no, and all the way to the right, the white coffee cup is abstain.
Okay, give it a minute more for the amendment.
And did you see that Jamie York is here, but on her phone?
Yes. That's why I was asking about, because I thought she had put in comments that she can't change the name.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
Her name shows up in one of the squares, so I don't know.
So we'll get her when we get her.
Okay.
Okay. Do we have a final count on the amendment?
We're 10 yes, 1 abstention.
Okay, fine. Then let's go to the main motion. If anybody has a hand up or any other comments.
Add one more.
I'm sorry, who was that?
Add one more. I didn't get mine up in time.
Oh, go right ahead, sir. Are you talking about a vote or a comment?
The vote.
Oh, okay, thank you, David. All right.
So it's, what is Glenn, 11? My vote makes 11?
Correct.
Okay. And no nos, one extension?
Correct.
Same as the other. Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Now let's just take the vote again, using your reactions, check mark or that. So let's just take the vote for it for the final.
For the ultimate motion, who are the maker and second?
The original was Lydia and David Rockello, if I wasn't mistaken.
Awesome, thank you.
That's what I have.
Give me a thumbs up, David, to make sure.
Yeah,
okay,
that's what
thank you. It was David. Yes. Okay. Do we have the count?
Everyone voted? We have 10 yes, 0 no, and 2 abstentions.
Okay,
the city has.
I'm sorry. Okay, so the motion passes. Okay, next on the agenda item 5, discussion and possible action on the Dunn intensity report. Jamie York, can we unmute her?
Hello?
Hi, Jamie, how are you doing?
I'm okay.
Great.
How are you guys?
We're doing just wonderful on a Memorial Day weekend, or Labor Day, excuse me. God, going all the way back to May. So go right ahead, the floor is yours.
Oh, well, Lydia was the one who asked to get this added to the agenda. I had just forwarded it on because a friend of mine had sent it to me that data had been uncovered as a result of a lawsuit. And it basically revealed intensity ratings for neighborhood councils. And so I have a lot of questions about this because my friend asked me questions like, you know what this is? And I was like, no, I don't. This is very interesting. But so for me, I'd really like to know how these numbers were derived, how often they're updated. Are they something that's still used? Why did the city have to be sued to release them? Because that cost the general fund over $15,000 apparently. So I just have a lot of questions, and but I actually really like to hear from Lydia too.
We do have the general manager present in the meeting. If Terrence, if you wanted to. ask her.
Sorry, I was muted. Absolutely. If she'd like to make some comment on it, because this was brought forward by some of the members of the neighborhood council system, and they'd like some answers. Does she ever? Well,
Good morning. So, good morning, everybody. I don't know anything about what Miss York is talking about, so I can't comment on any of it.
okay. All right. Ms. Grant?
Yes. This is very strange because the settlement on the lawsuit has Ms. Beltran's name on it. I don't understand. I mean, it's funny that the department doesn't like when we say or criticize them, but so at least we're open and transparent, and we're not getting that same open and transparency from the department if it costs the taxpayers $15,000 to get that information exposed.
Mr. Chair and Lydia.
Yes.
Bob, you had said something.
Yeah, he's muted because he hasn't been recognized by the chair.
Okay.
Lydia has the floor.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was just asking for a brief explanation of what the story is.
So the story is I received a document called the intensity, I believe it was called the intensity survey. And basically it lists all the neighborhood councils and it scores them. And supposedly the higher the score, the greater the intensity of the neighborhood council. Well, somebody had done a PRA request requesting this information. And while the department did turn it over, from what I understand, it was completely redacted. They sued the city and it cost $15,000 to be able to unredact the document. There's a link now in the chat, and the department would not give that information, which is why it ended up in a lawsuit. So you can look at the list and you can see how your neighborhood council scored. And what we're asking for is, why did they do this? What do those scores mean? What were they going to do with these scores? And we deserve an explanation as to why we scored the way they did and what their metric was.
Thank you for that. Does anybody else have any comments? Jamie? I've unmuted you, Jamie.
Yeah, I posted in the chat a link to both the settlement agreement and as well as the data. And yeah, like I'd like to echo Lydia, like I'd love to know what the numbers mean, how they were derived, what is intensity a measure of exactly? Is there a formula? That's something that I'd really like to know from a data standpoint. Or are these subjective impressions? Are these scores that continue to be used? So yeah, those are the questions that I have. But I mean, obviously, like if you're named in a lawsuit, I feel like you would know something about being named in a lawsuit. So.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Bailey.
Yeah, I just, my understanding, and first of all, I didn't hear about this until yesterday late. And it was posted from a group called the Los Angeles Sunshine Coalition on their Twitter account. You know, I've tried to figure it out, and based on input from a couple folks. First of all, just one clarification from, I think, what Lydia said. The $15,000 was not the cost to unredact. The $15,000 based on the document I saw was the paying the attorney fees from the group that sued the city. So, and I do think that the questions regarding, so I guess my main concern is to hear about something where all of our neighborhood councils are listed along with a list of NEAs and an intensity percentage that I had never heard of, or at least I don't recall hearing about it from a year or so ago, year plus. Hearing about it posted by an outside group on Twitter is not my preferred way to hear about things. And then specifically when I drilled down, looking at the list for the NEAs assigned to specific neighborhood councils, and keep in mind that this is dated. So some of the NEAs listed are no longer with the department, but I'm assuming this is a snapshot in time as of the time that this report was done. I just happened to notice that the NEA listed for one neighborhood council had never been then, prior, or since then, had never been the NEA for that neighborhood council. So that makes me question, I'm not saying the accuracy, but you know, if it's supposed to be the NEA associated with each neighborhood council, it does make me wonder. So I am curious in that regard. And again, just hearing about this less than 24 hours ago. So, you know, I do think more information is necessary. And then just for everyone's information, the data, the intensity percentage sorted from high to low, the first, I think, 37 neighborhood councils of the report is posted on the webpage, the LANCC webpage for this meeting. And then there's the other report is all of the neighborhood councils, and it's grouped by the NEAs, the first letter, the first name, alphabetically by first name of the NEAs for all 99 neighborhood councils. That is also posted on the LANCC meetings webpage, and I'll put that into the chat. And then in the chat, I believe it was Jamie who posted the links to the documents, direct documents from as they appeared on Twitter, I think. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Mr. Upperhart, welcome.
Yeah, just a little bit of historic perspective for everybody. Some years back, there was discussion within the department about somehow rating neighborhood councils in this fashion. At that time, as I recall, the discussion involved rating them with a 1, 2, or 3, depending on, I guess, how much effort was required by done. And the management then said, this is a really, really bad idea, because once this information becomes public, people are not going to react well to it. I understand that we live in a world that wants to reduce everything to numbers. I can tell you, as someone who's run a business for many, many years and dealt with a lot of people in a lot of areas, it's an astoundingly stupid idea, because individuals are individuals. And it's very hard to take any one of the 99 neighborhood councils and essentially characterize them. I know a board fairly close to my own that is astoundingly valuable and yet astoundingly effective at adopting motions, getting business done, awarding any NPGs. It's a lot of noise, but it's also a lot of very good work. So I don't know what the department is up to, but I really recommend that they stop doing things like this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Upperhart. Jamie, sure.
Yeah, I'm also just sort of mindful that given that Reseda had a 90 rating, which is fairly high, and I will acknowledge that at that time frame there were a lot of different things going on with our board, but that also we were a board that was left like without staffing for a really long time. And a lot of in particular in that time period, a lot of the excess work that was being generated was due to the continued interest and presence of some of the gadflies that we know regularly attend neighborhood council meetings, taking a particular interest in Reseda at that time. And so, you know, if intensity is, and that's again the question of what is intensity, because, you know, if it's a diamond, that's a measure of brilliance, but I suspect that's not what this is. But if intensity is a measure of workload, or services needed, it then should those NCs with a high intensity rating be getting additional resources or additional services? But I would certainly think that they shouldn't be essentially left alone as our NC was for many, many, many months, which made us kind of have to go it alone and figure things out as we went along. And I think that we, handled that challenge adequately and well, but it was difficult. So that's another question that I also have is, how does the intensity ratings translate into thinking about additional services or additional support that might be needed for a board that has such a rating? Because I don't think that we got that. If anything, it was the hard work of a couple people on our council that did things like unlocking our website, that did things like getting our minutes back in order, things like that, that really made the difference.
Thank you, Mr. McGovern.
Yeah, thank you. I would also be interested in a one-sentence description of what intensity is supposed to refer to. And in that regard, Mr. Chair, I would suggest that after the LANCC members have had their say, that you invite the general manager to once again attempt an answer to this question.
Okay, no problem. Okay, thank you, Mr. Gelfand. Lauren?
Yeah, well, this is all very awakening, better than an espresso, I suppose. But there seems to me there's a lot that we don't know, right? So for example, one thing I'd like to know, if I were ranking an NC, how much staff time is needed to mediate disputes? That could be a useful metric. The assumptions about what they're doing and what they mean and the lawsuit, etc., give me pause. But I feel like we need more information. And I think I heard somebody say that it was under a previous administration, which then means that this has been going on for some time. Let's just be straightforward. There are many NCs that are problematic for a variety of reasons. The ranking system and what it means, and I think it might be tied to staff time because that's always been an issue. We need further explanation, but if it's designed to make the system run more smoothly, I think, yeah, I see the note, Jamie, that the data is from February 2021, but I mean the initiative itself and what's behind it. I think we just need more information. And then also, this body should be prepared if there are problems, and that's what the ratings are pointing to make positive and achievable suggestions on how to deal with that.
Thank you. Okay, David.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Jimmy had said in regards to staff. We were short for a significantly long time. Then we got one who was a little bit of a micromanager. So it's an interesting difference. In terms of the support being provided versus the amount of time managing us, that's another thing. It would be good to know about this. I would hope that if this goes back a ways, that one of the things it was looking into is how active, and Jamie, I know you guys are, with filing community impact statements. That was one of the metrics that we were given transparently. That was encouraged, the amount of CISs that a neighborhood council put through. And I think there was actually maybe a neighborhood council award for that under previous administration. So I'm hoping that might have been part of the point of this to show the efficacy of the neighborhood councils, but I may be naive. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, David. Glenn?
Yeah, I mean, based on some of the assignments of the NEAs, I think we can kind of pin down the time frame, as being late 2020, early 2021. Hopefully we can get more exact date, but regardless, it's a snapshot in time. So for example, the highest the one with the highest intensity rating, North Hollywood Northeast, at the time was in exhaustive efforts, and now they're not. So you know, it just good to keep that in mind, snapshot in time, and then more importantly, all the criteria as mentioned earlier that was used, and is this an ongoing process? Because if there's something that I mean, I'm not aware of any neighborhood council that's perfect, and if this had been, if anything that could be communicated to from an outside perspective, because sometimes we're so involved with what we're doing, but having outside input of, hey, you can improve here and here and here. Some are self-obvious. File more community impact statements for some neighborhood councils, or you know, whatever it is, you know, share that with us. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Glenn. Lydia and David, did you get my message? Can you take over, because I got some stuff to work.
Will do.
Thank you.
Hi. One of the things I wanted to point out is, according to the timeline, I believe that Jasmine, who's listed as our NEA, was our NEA only under Ms. Beltran. I'd also like to point out, for those of you who haven't actually read the documents that are on the screen, that the settlement agreement clearly says the settlement agreement and release of claims isn't entered into between the Los Angeles Sunshine Coalition and the City of Los Angeles and Raquel Beltran, General Manager of the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. So for her not to have any idea of what this is about really frightens me, because her name's on it. And if she doesn't know what's happening around her and the lawsuits and the money that it costs, when I said it cost the taxpayers, it did cost the taxpayers, regardless of how it was paid out. That $15,000 came out of taxpayer money, and we deserve an explanation. That's why I brought this forward. Thank you.
Okay, Doug.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, if this group is going to do anything useful, it would be to immediately adopt a resolution that this be agendized at the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners for a full discussion.
If that's a motion, Doug, I'll second it.
That is a motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
Should we let Raquel speak first since her hand's up?
Well, if as a comment for the motion, perhaps. Raquel, would you like to speak to we now have a motion on the floor.
Sure. Do you need a second first?
No, we have a second. I think we had Doug, then Lydia.
Thank you. When I indicated that I didn't know anything about a lawsuit, because that was all that was stated in the opening statement. So I took that to mean that there was currently a lawsuit in effect. I'm well aware of the CPRA requests. We spoke openly about this tool at neighborhood council meetings and also at the commission during that period of time. It was a means of clarifying how we were going to try to figure out what our staffing workload might need to be. So this is a tool that we created just to try to see how much staff time neighborhood councils need. It isn't necessary, it was not a tool to speak ill of a neighborhood council. In some cases, they need more staff time because they're very productive and they need more of our time to continue on the path that they're on. So that's what that tool was used for. And it was only one way of assessing the distribution of staff. As you know, at that time, we lost about more or less 50% of the neighborhood empowerment advocates in the department. So that's, I think, answers most of your question.
All right, very good. Lydia, you're still kind of still up, but are there anyone else who wants to speak to the motion, which is to bring this to bonk for newly informed discussion? Jamie?
Yeah, I'd also like that perhaps part of the motion could be addressing CPRA compliance as well. I've only done a handful of CPRAs, but in my experience, at least, there's a lot of delay that has occurred. I would ask for a document in its original format, as I'm legally allowed to do, and get it as a PDF, and then I have to go back and say you're not following the law. So I think that it would be nice if the motion also included something about CPRA compliance. But to Ms. Beltran's point, if the department was speaking about this openly in commission meetings and whatnot, then why was the document redacted, and why was someone forced to have a lawsuit to unredact the data if the data was as innocuous as she suggests? Because those two things don't match in tone and tenor. So thanks.
So the reason why some of the items were redacted is because in the first response to the CPRA, we perceived some of that information to be personnel in nature because of how we were making decisions about staff themselves. And that is within the CPRA law. And it was determined that some of the items that were redacted didn't conform to that, so they had to be provided. But it isn't unusual for the city or any entity, if they feel that something is in the realm of personnel matter, to stay within the boundaries of the CPRA.
Sorry, folks, my Bluetooth just died. I lost audio.
Hey, Glenn, can you take over?
Okay, no, I got it. Sorry to switch speakers.
I think Cindy is next.
Thanks.
Okay, this is Cindy Cleghorn. I'm from Sunland, Tahunga. I just want to say that I urge support for the motion as it has been presented. I think that the maker of the motion did well with that as it is, and move this along before the bonk. Thank you.
Okay, Bob?
Yeah, what Cindy said and what Doug said. Thank you.
Okay. It would be nice if we could have the, I just had this as Doug moved to forward this to Bonk for comment. If we want to add anything to that, or if it has been added, please let me know, type it in the chat. Jamie?
I just find that the explanation that this is something about personnel doesn't really hold water with me, because this is a rating of our neighborhood council. We're not personnel. We're not city employees, as we've so often been told. So I don't understand how a metric that is a measure of our neighborhood council could possibly be interpreted as a personnel measurement. And obviously the courts agreed. And in addition, the things that I request are all related to data sets. Usually it's one document, maybe two. And the delay that I have experienced, and actually in one case have had to threaten to sue myself because of repeated delay to get literally one document. This is a continued issue. As many of you know, I'm a bit of a data wonk. I like looking at things in detail. It shouldn't have to come to the city wasting money on a lawsuit for us to get data that's about our neighborhood councils.
Okay. Jennifer.
Yeah, I think the report back needs to also include information on how the department is responding to CPRAs, because what Jamie's describing is very problematic, and the fact that they tried to redact this and it took a lawsuit is also very problematic. I also did a CPRA for a data set and had to threaten to sue to get it released. And it's amazing, as soon as I threatened to sue, it was available. Even though it had been pushed back multiple times, the day I threatened to sue, it was magically available. So I think there needs to be a larger look, not just at this document, but at how the department is responding to records requests.
Okay, well, that might be another motion, or it might be all factored in here. Glenn?
Yeah, in the past, when I've tried to get CPR requests fulfilled, once the 10 days passed with no response at all, I escalate that and have copied the city attorney's office. And it's amazing how quickly then responses, or at least our responses, even if it's not fulfilled, at least there's a response, because they know there is I'm not sure why it's not done, and maybe now it's much better, but in the past I've had to do that multiple times. But once the city attorney realizes the city's at risk of violating the California Public Records Act request, they tell the department, hey, at least acknowledge the reply, get it fulfilled in a timely manner. Just a hint for those that are having difficulty. Secondly, in addition to the adding the CPRA component or a separate motion on that, since it was indicated that this has been presented to neighborhood councils and to the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners, I would like to, since we're directing this to BONC, I would like to request that we also ask for the dates and item numbers that this was presented to the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners meetings, so we can check the minutes and listen to the recording for those specific, those relevant items. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Would that be a amendment to the motion to include those two items to the basic desire to bring it to BONC? And if so, could you put it in?
I'd like to raise a point of order, Mr. Chair.
I'm in the middle of saying it for another motion, but if you're not,
well, I was sort of hoping to avoid having to go through, amendments and that sort of thing. But if we have to do that, yes, I would make an amendment that we include,
Mr. Chair,
in the original motion. I would make an amendment that we include.
Okay,
requesting
Mr. Chair, you're either going to run this.
Bob, you're recognized.
So, as I was saying, that if we have to do an amendment, that we.
Glenn, I've got Bob. Bob is recognized. Bob.
I was in the middle of. Okay, fine.
No, he interrupted you before we had a second, but you had finished your first point. So, Bob, the floor is yours. You've got 5 seconds.
Okay, the point of order is that if you are going to move an amendment, please make the motion as I would like to move to amend. So I will perk up my ears and hear what you're talking about. Instead, we've heard long discussions, and then at the end, it's somehow an amendment. I would suggest very simply that we vote on the original motion, and then anything else that you want to take up as a separate motion, please do so. And then I will know what it is and I can vote on it. Thank you.
Okay, so that was a point of order. So I just want to point out that in chat, Jennifer made a note she would second the amendment.
Okay, so can you type the amendment into the chat so everyone can see it? And Bob can prick up his ears. The motion, as I understand it, is to not just discuss this with BONC, but to also to bring up the question of things that might be more effectual in terms of response to CPRAs and the information as to when these presentations have been made in the past. All right, Lydia?
Yes, I am against the amendment and will at the end, if it does not pass, create a motion for this to be done separately, and I'll explain why. We don't want to convolute the issue. And two, there are so many problems with the PRA process that when we get to the bonk meeting, they're going to give us 1 minute to speak, and we're not going to be able to address both issues in that time. So I feel that we should do it as a separate item. And I can tell you, as a neighbor council that just spent 4 months trying to get copies of documents that Dunn used against us and was refusing to give to us in a PR when we requested them. I think that this is a separate issue. I think there's a lot of this happening, and I think we need more time at the bonk meeting to discuss the PRA issue separately. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gelfand has stated that the acknowledgement of a text suggesting a second while he was talking might not be valid. Can we clarify?
I will orally second it. And Glenn put in the chat that he's just asking for receipts. He wants the dates that the topic was discussed during the previous bonk meetings. And okay. I second Glenn's amendment asking for receipts.
All right.
And I'm asking what the amendment is. I want it in wording, writing, put it in the chat.
I'll read it out loud. And that LANCC requests the dates that this topic was discussed during previous bonk meetings.
Thank you.
It's in the chat.
All right, so that does not discuss the other thing that Lydia was talking about and what had been talked to about to Jamie. So right now, the amendment is only relating to the receipts and the dates the topic was discussed at the previous bonk meetings. Any further discussion on this amendment?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. I strongly feel that it should be a separate issue because it is a separate issue. It's bigger than just this. Thank you.
The receipts or the dates or the Jamie side of it?
The PRA issue.
That's not what the amendment is.
That's not part of the amendment being discussed.
Okay.
Okay, that's a fresh hand. Okay, Harmon, your hand is down now.
Hi, sorry, yeah, I lowered my hand. As long as, because I agree with everything Lydia said, so if we're just talking about an amendment having to do with this report, they're two separate things, the report and the CPRA.
Okay, so we got that clarified. Any further comments on the current limited amendment? All right. Can I still see your hand up? That's what I was asking.
Well, this is, the amendment is direct, the request is to make the request of bonk, and this is directly related to bonk only, asking for it's been referenced, it was brought up at bonk, so just asking for the dates so we can check the minutes and listen to the recording, that's all. So it's very much related to communicating to bonk.
And the reference to receipts, what receipts was that? Or is that, you just meant the telemetry on the...
That's not me. That wasn't
that was just a housewives colloquial from their reunions. When you bring proof, it's called bringing receipts. Glenn's thing is in the chat. I can read it out loud again for anyone that's confused. It says, and that LANCC requests the dates that this topic was discussed during previous bonk, it scrolled, sorry, during previous bonk meetings.
Got it. All right, any further discussion before we take the vote on this amendment? Okay. Ready when you are, Glenn, for voting.
Okay, so the roll is open. One vote per neighbor council. The only thing that will show up in the tally is the green circle, red no, and green yes, red no, or the abstention. That's all that gets included in the tally.
Please register a yes vote for Kay.
Noted. Thank you, Kay. That makes it 14. No, we have 14 now. That makes it 15. And one against. Are we done?
Okay.
Okay, the amendment carries. Going back to the original motion, which is the referral to the bank itself. Any further discussion on that? Okay, we have some people who are voting already. I don't know if we're there yet, so let's clear that and then we'll take the vote when we can. Lydia, your hand is back up.
Yes, we need clarification. Does it include the PRA request at this time
No.
or does it not? Thank you.
No. Bob put that in the chat for me because I'm stupid. All right, we're ready to take votes. We have 12 ayes so far, 13. If there are any other votes that can't be recorded using the tool, please let us know.
Kay votes yes.
Okay, that makes 14 so far. And another green, so that's 15. We had a total of 16 votes registered last time, so is there one more vote out there, one way or another? I'm not looking for Georgia votes, unless Georgia is a representative. Okay, it looks like we're at 14 plus one voice vote, 15-0-0.
Got it.
All right. Very good. Anything else to talk about on this? And it had been suggested that we follow up on this at LANCC as well.
Yeah, I had my hand up.
Who?
This is Bob Gelfand.
Okay, I don't see it. Go ahead.
I agree that the issue of PRA requests, and particularly PRA requests being stalled or ignored, that's an important issue. I have no problem with us bringing it up as a separate motion right here and now to add it to the bonk request. I have also suggested that we have, the Committee on Constructive Change, which is looking into city agencies, city departments, including Dunn. And I think that we ought to be talking about that at some length. And in fact, hearing testimony from people who have problems. And so since I've yammered on like this, I will leave it to somebody else to make a simple motion that we add, that we request. Because I'm trying to be, holy myself and follow Robert's rules if I'm going to tell other people what they're supposed to do.
I was trying to tell if the
I never thought of you as stupid. I think of you as creative. So thank you.
I appreciate that, Bob. Jennifer.
Yeah, I'd like to suggest we make a motion right now rather than refer it back to committee. That committee is already doing a lot of work and those committee meetings are already super long and things take forever in it because everybody in that committee is a talker. And we will, if it goes to that committee, we will literally spend 3 hours wordsmithing it.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, is that
there is no motion, so she's speaking against a motion that doesn't exist.
No, I'm speaking.
Why don't you just make the motion?
Bob.
No, I'm serious.
Okay, Bob, let me ask that question. Jennifer, would you like to make a motion to that effect?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we request a report back on the department's response to CPRAs.
Okay.
I'll second.
Discussion on the motion.
This is Lydia. I'll second it.
We already had that from Bob.
If anybody wants to add more teeth to it, go ahead.
David, I think that's a pretty simple motion, but a report back doesn't say what we're asking for. I think we need to give the neighborhood councils before Bonk would address it. I think we need to ask for Bonk to give an opportunity for neighborhood councils to weigh in on lack of response to PRA requests. I think it's an issue. I didn't realize how bad until people just started talking. I think just asking for report back on the department's PRAs, we're not going to get any information and we may not have a lot of opportunity to speak to it. So I think that and Jennifer, I'm not trying to change the motion, you know, because I think what you wrote was bad. What I would like to say is I'd like the motion to read, I'd like to make a motion that the Bonk Commission address the issues with PRA requests not being filled in regards to state law, that there have been delays.
I like that better, and I will accept that change.
Okay, Lydia, can you put that exact in the text? I had everything up until the state law part. I want to know where.
Yeah, it'll be kind of like that, but let me put it in.
Okay. Bob, is that acceptable to you, the amendment that's now being further wordsmithed? Okay. Liz?
Yeah, I think that there's questions that need to be asked. I don't think they need to be in the motion itself, but they should include how long turnarounds on PRAs are. I mean, are they late by days? Are they late by a few weeks? Are they not responding at all? The second part of that is that what is the impact on in terms of cost? Because obviously this time there was, but also in terms of the less tangible things such as frustration with people filing, people leaving, and distrust of the system.
All right.
Okay, I put it in the chat. It may not be the exact same wording if you want to tweak it a little.
Well, that looks good. And I will repeat, motion to ask Bonk to address the issues, not just issue a report, with the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, failing to follow state law in regards to PRA requests. Bob.
Yeah, I think that you got it there, David. I think that what we're asking for is a comprehensive study on the city's response to PRA requests, particularly with regard to neighborhood councils, because that's who we are and what we're talking about. How you would phrase that, I would just add the comprehensive study, but I'll leave that to the wisdom of the body.
All right. No further new hands up. Jennifer, yours is still up.
Yeah, sorry.
Are we adding comprehensive study?
I will agree to that.
I'll add it with an eye towards.
This is Lydia. I'll agree to it too.
Fostering a comprehensive study. Any discussion on our new motion? I say new as opposed to the one previously passed.
This is Cindy. raised? Are you still going to be going down the list?
I believe my hand is raised.
Okay. Yeah, a few new ones popped up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we can ask for a comprehensive study all we want, and you know, I will vote for it. I just want to say that I fully expect the commission to say that they are a policy commission, and that's not their job. Just be prepared. So I'm just saying, if we somehow tie it to policy, it might tie their hands a little bit more to respond.
Okay, noted. Steve Randall.
Yeah, since this motion addresses a lack of response or length of times of response, it might be an idea to put in a request that we get the results of the study within a certain period of time.
Okay. All right, any further discussion?
Yeah, this is Cindy. I think I must be at the top, so you can't see me. I'm sorry. Don't mean to be at the top.
Well,
okay.
I thought I heard from you, but I was
okay. No. Anyway, I just want some clarification on the motion. I think the sense of it is that you want this data or information on PRA requests that are made of the department, but neighborhood councils across the whole system also get PRA requests, and they can be very, very complex. Are you including those in that complexity, or is this just PRA requests for the department? I think that there should be some clarification there. Or maybe you want both. Thank you.
The motion states for the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment.
Yeah, I think that's kind of implicit. All right, not hearing an immediate need to amend this further.
There's a hand raised.
Actually, we do have something in there pursuant to what Steve wanted to ask for the study report by a certain date. All right, is Lydia?
Yeah, I don't know that you're going to get a study. When a neighborhood council sends a letter to their NEA asking for information, that's part of it, and it's not something that the department may have information on or Bonk may not be able to get. So I'm just letting you know what my hope to do this is for Bonk to hear from neighborhood councils that are having this problem, and for the city attorney to make sure that Dunn starts following the law.
Okay. We have an unseconded possible additional amendment. Doug?
Yeah, I just want to say that what we're really talking about here is bringing the issue to the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners to make them aware that the issue exists and for them to hear from us regarding what is the lack of timeliness, certainly, and response, apparently, from the department. With regard to Bonk's mission, you know, they're like every other city commission. They're somebody we should talk to and who can express an opinion, if nothing else. Perhaps speaking to the city council members to say that this is an issue that exists and should be responded to, or to the mayor's office for that matter. I mean, I think this is really what we're talking about, is an opportunity to get in front of the commission and have this discussion and be heard, and not in 1 minute increments.
All right, very good. And arguably, I think the key point of the motion is to have this talked about along with the other topic. The pressure and feedback that the neighborhood councils will be afforded at this meeting could lend further discussion as to whether there should be, whether a comprehensive study is practical and when it might be reasonable to assume. Bob, to have that response. Bob.
Yeah, I would like to see or hear the exact wording of the motion that we will be voting on. Perhaps Doug, has his own version of it, as he explained.
Well, what we have without a second to the amendment as to a timeline is the motion to ask Bonk to address the issue with the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, failing to follow state law in regards to PRA requests, with an eye towards fostering a comprehensive study.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think the eye toward fostering a comprehensive study is a little vague. Maybe we should, on second thought, just leave that out, because I think the rest of it does what Doug said. I tend to agree with that point.
All right.
What the legalities are, but
Jennifer,
if you to read the words without with the eye toward fostering, I think we've got something that we can all vote on and get done with.
Okay, Jennifer, are you okay with removing that addendum to your original motion?
Sure.
All right. Without objection, it is stricken. Shall we repeat it once more? Are there any more comments before we start voting?
Yes, please.
Motion to ask Bonk to address the issues with the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment failing to follow state law in regards to PRA with requests, period. Any further questions? Let's go to a vote. Green is aye, red is nay, coffee cup is abstain.
Please register a yes vote for Kay.
Duly noted. That gives us 15 aye and 1 abstain. We have now 16 votes, which is 17 aye. Welcome to the people who are on the extended DWP call who are now voting. All right, 17 aye, 1 abstain. All right, Glenn, I think we're good. And Terrence, are you back?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much. And we will make sure to get a letter to the Bonk to get these on their agenda and to be able to have full discussion. I thank you, everybody, for your discussion on this. And we will move forward. Jamie, you're up again.
Sorry, Terrence, I don't know if you saw my chat message regarding Chief Zipperman from LA Fire Department.
Okay. From me, I don't see, I didn't know that he was coming, but if the board doesn't mind, we'd allow him to have the floor for a minute or two. Where is he? I don't see him on the screen. Can you unmute him? Glenn?
Yeah, right here.
Go ahead. He's unmuted.
Okay, where is he?
I'm at the top of the screen.
Oh, no, you're on mine. You're in the, hey, how are you doing, Chief? Welcome. Good
Thanks.
to see you.
It's been a pleasure. I've been on for over an hour, so I've got an opportunity to listen to all what you guys do. So thank you. Yeah, I'm actually assigned to a different bureau, but I'm sitting in here today at Central Bureau. So I was asked to join, provide any information. I don't know, most of the forums don't allow for questions, but I can certainly tell you that what we're doing is always advising, brush evacuations at this point in time of year. I'll give you just a couple quick seconds here. As you know, we've had a wildfire already in the Santa Clarita area. We're definitely dry in the city of Los Angeles, at least in my area as well, with the Hollywood area and the Palisades area. So what we're doing is we're definitely interacting with our community partners and our homeowners groups, neighborhood councils, to ensure that they've at least addressing, talking, and they're meeting about different types of evacuations during these potential event threats. As you know, we as a fire department, we're going to be tasked to the max commitment. So we're going to obviously do everything we can to suppress the fire as quickly as we can. I will let you know that in line with all of our bureaus, not just mine, we interact and train with LAPD and all of our outside agencies on a regular basis to understand and ensure that we all plan and coordinate a planned or unplanned evacuation should one arise. And we really try to ensure that our civilian population understands what they need to do as well. One of the things I will just say that's vitally important is I know everybody in their neighborhoods and their areas that they reside in have various routes that they take. Some of you have probably found some very good shortcuts to where you need to go and where you need to get out. I will always advise to stay on the main roadways, on the areas that you know you can get out to down the mountain or wherever you do reside. We do have people that think that, you know, we've got a fire road or we've got a trail or something that's in an area that I can get out of here faster. I'll always advise you not to do that. We highly consider, even if we put our own firefighters on those types of roadways or areas, due to the fact that we can never predict the speed and spread of the fire, the terrain that the fire is traveling, and or particular spotting of fire activity should one be below you on a certain type of mid-slope road. So we're always going to ask you to take the normal routes, the main routes. That's where we're going to be looking for you. That's where LAPD is going to assist in setting up traffic control to get our residents down to a safe area. And at the same time, we're going to be identifying whatever evacuation locations that we set up for our public. In addition to that, I'll always recommend that you have some sort of evacuation plan, a ready-go bag, medications, whatever you may need right off the bat to get you out of that residence and to be able to survive for at least a few days. It's going to be a few days if we do have a large-scale event to be able to get you back into your home areas and able to get you what you may need. I will let you also know that if we do have large evacuations, we've done a pretty good job ensuring that we secure the areas from any potential looting. I can't guarantee anything, but I will tell you that we really work with law enforcement to ensure that we have LAPD or whatever law enforcement agency we can utilize to secure the residential areas. And then we will always repopulate when safe. So with that, I'd like everybody to also stay hydrated and stay cool. As you know, the weather has been very, very warm. And tomorrow is supposed to be another warm one with maybe even peaking tomorrow. So maybe even a little warmer tomorrow. We do not have winds, much wind activity at all. And we're just in a dry, stagnant dome right now. So again, stay healthy, stay hydrated, drink a lot, and stay in an air-conditioned environment if you can. And on behalf of the Los Angeles Fire Department, we thank you for all the support that you give us each and every day for us in the LAFD. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief. We do have 2 questions. We're going to take, can you take 2 questions real quick?
Absolutely.
Okay, Glenn and then Liz, and then we'll move on. And thank you so much for your time and your service here, Chief.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief, for attending the meeting. I don't expect you can be able to answer the question, but I appreciate if you could take this back. Specifically, 2 neighborhood councils have been trying to, let me just say, the Sepulveda Basin is the second largest park/open space, city parkland in the city. It has lots and lots of fires occurring. Generally not that big, but it still takes a lot of resources of the fire department. There have been conversations to do prescribed or controlled burns. That hasn't worked out. And so 2 neighborhood councils have been working, and one of them actually voted to provide funding to bring in a herd of goats to help get the fuel amount down. And it seems to have gotten stalled at recreation and parks. We know there'll continue to be fires, but I'm going to broaden this because the city of Laguna Beach uses goats to reduce their fuel management or surrounding their city. And I know LA City is way bigger than Laguna Beach, but I just wondered if you had any comments on either one of those. Otherwise, if you take back, it's like, you know, neighborhood councils are trying to be part of the solution, but we're running into difficulty dealing with the city departments. Thank you.
I will certainly take that question back. And I do know that it's been a challenge. I am very well aware of what they've tried to put in place and get the plan need for the prescribed burns going. I know that there's been a lot of challenges with certain rare birds or bird population in that area that has kind of challenged it. There's always the PEH, the homeless population, that challenges our ability to move forward. However, the goats are probably a great idea. I'm not quite sure, you know, what the city's footprint is on that, but I will certainly reach out to our department to see if there's any information whatsoever about that moving forward, and have somebody get back to you.
We'd appreciate that, Chief. Liz, go right ahead.
Again, this is a question to take back, but I think it's a really serious one. We've had complaints in various areas of the city about congestion impacting emergency vehicles due to road diets. There's another road diet plan for Colorado Boulevard, which at the moment looks like it will block off the fire station, but it also impedes traffic through that area. And above them is a major potential fire hazard in the Chill Canyon dump area. If you can, please bring up these concerns. We need to have these main arteries open, not shut down to one lane each. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I do have both questions. I will proceed forward with ensuring that they go up the chain of command to find out if we can get some answers. I can't promise anything in the next week or so, but I certainly will get those going. With no other answers or questions, I'm sorry. That's all I have to share. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to be on, and I'll stay on just another minute or so if anybody has a question. Then I'm going to go ahead and leave the meeting.
All right, thank you so much, Chief. And we do meet once a month, so if we could get that information next month, that would be very helpful. And like some of the neighborhood councils stated, they are willing to help fund it to make it happen. It's just that they're, from what I understand, they're running into roadblocks and bureaucratic red tape that shouldn't be there to help protect and serve the community.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that said, I don't see any more hands, and you have a great weekend and a great holiday. So let's go on next one. Jamie, your motion.
Hi. I can't share my screen, but so this is about animal services. I'm sure many of you are aware of the recent reporting about the mess at animal services. I'm on my phone, so even with co-hosts, I can't share because, yeah. So if anybody would care to share it, it would be great. But basically, there's 3 council files that are relevant to the current sort of mess at animal services. And I'm hoping that other neighborhood councils will weigh in. What we've been hearing about is volunteers being fired for speaking to the press. We've been hearing about animals that have been left in their cages for weeks to months without being walked. We've heard problems of things like mold and flooding inside the shelters themselves, and also a contract that utilizes money that regular people donated for animal welfare, but is being used to essentially redo their website. And it's a $1.5 million contract that's using a lot of the animal welfare trust fund spending. So I don't know if people want me to read it or what would be the best way to, I mean, the link to it's in the agenda. But what I'm hoping is that we could adopt the positions argued for in this letter, and that you guys will bring these back to your own.
Did we lose her, Jamie?
Sorry, I muted myself by accident because I'm trying to like be on my phone and like on my computer at the same time. Do you want me to just read it?
Well, yeah, go ahead. I also put the link that you sent that was on the agenda. It's actually in the chat right now, so everybody can actually link to it and look at it.
Okay, great. Well, there's 3 council files with recommended positions, and then there's also emails recommended that if you guys send it by email, but I'll just go ahead and read it because it's only like a page. Okay. So like most Angelenos, members of the blank neighborhood council were appalled and disappointed by the reports in the Los Angeles Times of mistreatment and neglect of animals in the care of Department of Animal Services. It appeared that the department is understaffed and lacks skilled managerial leadership, and these shortcomings led to a profound breach of moral and fiduciary duty. It is unfathomable how neither the Personnel, Audits and Animal Welfare Committee, nor the mayor-appointed Board of Animal Services Commission gave any public indication of these problems and left it to a newspaper expose and honest, heartbreaking words of volunteers to make these conditions known to the wider public. Smaller news outlets have documented these conditions before, including occupied animal living quarters overrun by rats and flooding shelters. Necessary actions must be taken to quickly and efficiently process into the system the many people who have applied to be volunteers, including, as necessary, clerical staff being transferred to the department to process backlogged applications. The city shelter's substantial volunteer corps, without which shelters could not operate, must be treated with the respect they deserve and given a formal seat at the table in current and future decision-making for the shelters and their procedures and operations. One option that could be considered is the formation of a volunteers animal services advisory committee with representatives elected by volunteers from each of the city shelters. Volunteers who were suspended or terminated after speaking to the media must be immediately reinstated. Terminating highly skilled volunteers who run shelter programs such as dog play groups, train other volunteers, and walk the more challenging dogs further harms animals in the shelters. Retaliation against employee whistleblowers is illegal, and retaliation against volunteers is obviously wrong and erodes trust in our city government structures. Should the city be able to terminate a volunteer for engaging in good faith criticism of the city? Good governance depends on the willingness of constituents to speak out without fear of retaliation. A full and comprehensive audit should be undertaken by the city controller of the Department of Animal Services, including its volunteer program, to analyze the department's needs, its budget, its staffing structure and numbers, and the effectiveness of its expenditures. Additionally, the exorbitant $1.5 million contract with the marketing firm, The Glue LLC, should be immediately examined, and the nature, circumstances, and expenditure on this contract investigated by the controller for fraud, waste, and abuse. This should include a review of the change in terms of use of the Animal Welfare Trust Fund instituted in 2018, which was approved by both the Animal Services Commission and the PAAW Committee. In fiscal year 2021-2022, 63% of all expenditures from the donor-funded Animal Welfare Trust Fund were spent in service of this contract rather than on the direct care of animals. Contrary to the motion introduced by Councilmember Koretz, this is not simply a crisis of budgetary resources. It is a crisis of dubious priorities, inept management, and derelict and negligent oversight. For example, the city has never properly funded or enforced its spay and neuter policies, which has directly contributed to the current overcrowding. Alongside these management issues, however, it is true that the city has chronically underfunded the Department of Animal Services and must henceforth budget appropriately for the needs of the animals. There's a clear need for the department to have permanent, independent, neutral oversight, such as from an ombudsman to whom issues of concern can be directed. This is especially the case given the department's substantial skilled volunteer workforce, who are often the first to recognize needed changes. The animals in the shelter system, the shelter volunteers, and the taxpayers deserve the ethical treatment that would be provided by a better run department, and the responsibility for delivering it falls to you and your appointees. That's it, thanks.
Sorry, I was muted. I apologize about that. We had.
This is Lydia. I'll second it.
Okay, thank you for that. That's where we were going with it. So before I mute it. Okay, anybody have any comments? 763, go right ahead. You have your hand up?
Yes, can you hear me?
We sure can. Go right ahead.
Hi, this is Mark Dutton from Tahunga. Thank you so much for bringing up that animal issue. It is a big problem. I hope it's not as bad as we're being told that it is. It's horrible if it is. I personally volunteered to walk dogs over a month ago. I've called 3 times. to find out what the holdup was. I was ready to go in and, play with dogs in the back, take dogs for a walk, whatever it is. I haven't gotten a single phone call back. That's not acceptable. Now, I know they're underfunded, but I'm kind of tired. Paul Koretz's efforts are good on paper, but all these nonprofits and other entities that the city hands off this stuff to and hands off millions of our taxpayer dollars to, it's all great on paper and it makes them look great, but none of it is ever enforced. And it's not just with animal services. I think you all know what I'm talking about. It's just all on paper to make it look like something's being done. I'm tired of this. And, animals are something emotional for me, and they can't wait. This other nonsense sometimes can wait a little bit, but they can't wait. They're suffering every day, and I don't think it's acceptable. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you so much, Mark. Okay, does anybody else have any, Cindy?
Oh, this is just a comment. Cindy, I'm from Salantanga. Where is the department done in all of this? Isn't the linkage between neighborhood councils and departments part of what done advocacy and assistance would be about? I am curious to know. Anyway, thank you.
Okay,
hope everybody votes for this one.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Jamie, then Lauren, and then Sydney, and then Glenn, and then I think we'll take it to vote because I don't see any other hands. Go ahead, Jamie.
One, I just wanted to shout out Linda Whitford from the Bel Air Beverly Crest neighborhood, who I worked on this draft with. So thank her very much for reaching out to me to work on this. Two, it's interesting, Cindy, that you bring up where is done in all this. Because I actually tried to read the CIS that Reseda submitted at the Animal Services Commission, and they were not in compliance with the law. They tried to deny that we had submitted anything, tried to deny the ability for our neighborhood council to talk. I ended up having to use my own public comment time in violation of the Brown Act to read for Reseda instead of also being able to have my own personal public comment. So I actually had reached out to my NEA about this, but what was interesting to me about this is that the city attorney that was on staff that day for the Animal Services Commission that allowed for this nonsense was Steve Houchin, who used to be part of this neighborhood council advice division. So if anyone should know better, it's him, but yet that's what I had to contend with when I attempted to represent Reseda for the CIS that we had properly and timely filed. So it's a mess.
Oh, thank you, Jamie, for saying that, because it was actually LANCC who actually put forth and pushed forward to get us the 5 minutes at all city council commissions, all that. We're gonna, at our next meeting next month, we're gonna readdress this and make sure, I don't know what the board's gonna say here to do it, but I think sending a letter to Nuri Martinez and also the mayor's office, I know I'm getting off track, but to have it where we get our time, because it's actually part of, I think, an ordinance, if I'm not mistaken. I know it's a council file. So Lauren, then Sydney, then Glenn.
Well, I just want to thank you for taking this on, Jamie. Really, you're just on fire today. I also read the article in the LA Times, and it's personal for me because my favorite feline is a rescue. So what I'm curious about, would anyone consider also sending out a copy of this letter, which I intend to support, to the press as a press release? I think the key is to get more pressure. I mean, let's face it, to a degree, they kind of tend to, I don't know, wink at neighborhood councils, but if we could create more of a crescendo, there are more people out there who care about what's happening to animals than are in neighborhood councils. That's my point. And they are suffering. And people get paid a lot of money to make sure that these departments run. And if they're not going to do it, they can be shoved aside. But we need more bandwidth in terms of just sort of galvanizing them to make sure the heads roll. And whoever spoke up about being a volunteer walker, thank you for that. So, and also one last thing, Jamie, if you could email me your text, I'm going to take this to executive committee, which meets before the board, and get this rolling, because I think this is really important. I mean, animals can't speak for themselves, and I personally feel a moral obligation to make sure that they're not mistreated on my watch. So thanks again, Jamie.
Lauren, the link is actually in the chat. I had actually placed it in there. Just click on it and it'll take you directly to the text. That was
I
shown
see
on
it, but it's in Google and I'm having trouble downloading it. That's why I asked.
Oh, okay. All right then. Okay, Sydney?
Thank you. Just from a procedural point, this is really not a motion. It's really a white paper or a letter, and because there's a lot of history in there. And I think LANCC should submit this as a proposal and to the various animal affairs, to the mayor, to all our council people for action. But there's a lot of things in there that are not part of the motion, but I think the whole document is required to be submitted. So I support the document, but I think from a procedural point, it should be submitted as a document, not as a motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Glenn?
Yeah, just two related matters. Cindy asked about what's being done related to neighborhood councils. You may recall a number of years ago that there are a number of neighborhood council liaison set up, and animal services was one of them. That was done through the mayor's office and Department of Neighbor Empowerment and et cetera. So to my knowledge, animal services had 2, maybe 3 meetings. They were in Arroyo Seco, and nothing since then. So it's been at least probably 4 years since they've had an animal services liaison meeting. So in terms of what neighbor councils can do and the department can do, is we need to ask that start up again, because that was our point of contact, that neighbor councils could send representatives who were passionate or had expertise on animal issues and bring up these issues and have a conversation, bring it back, have a dialogue. And that hasn't happened for quite a few years. There was a new general manager actually a couple since then. So, maybe it's a good time to restart that. The second thing I just want to mention, just so everyone knows, in terms of animal services and neighborhood councils, is when Best Friends gave notice that they would not be continuing their use of the Northeast Valley Animal Shelter after the end of this year. The department agendized a request for proposals process for another private entity to operate that shelter. They knew that this was, that this lease, this term agreement would be expiring, and we checked their budget submittal to the city for this current fiscal year, and there was nothing in there. They didn't even request money to operate that animal shelter as a municipal animal shelter. And if you don't request the money through the city's budget process, I guarantee you're not going to get it. And also, they did not notify any of the neighborhood councils, specifically Mission Hills Neighborhood Council, or any of the other neighborhood councils served that would be geographically served by this facility, that this was happening. So there was no opportunity for those neighborhood councils to weigh in, or for that matter, any other neighborhood councils to weigh in a timely manner, because it just showed up on their agenda. And was as indicated earlier, even neighborhood councils that did do a community impact statement, which would have by definition was after it, because they only gave 3 days notice and they took action, then none of those subsequent CISs were considered because the matter was no longer on their agenda. So the whole process definitely stands for a great deal of improvement. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Jennifer?
Yeah, so I did a deep dive into the glue contract. Web development is a thing I happen to know quite a bit about. And the glue's methodologies and deliverables are very solid. However, like, and the scope of work is very detailed. It's a very good contract. Their deliverables have been consistently late. And I don't know if that's related to the city not acting on things or the glue taking too long. But what is a problem with the contract is the price is exorbitant. One of the things that the city was billed for was $94,000 for taking photographs of the animals in the shelters. And I think it was like 2,000 photographs that were taken over like a couple of days. $94,000 seems exorbitant for that to me. Like, I don't know how much taking photographs cost, but I think about like a wedding. Like, I know people aren't spending $94,000 on wedding photographs, and it's probably like 2,000 photos taken at a wedding. I don't know. Seems exorbitant. I do know the web stuff. The cost is very exorbitant. For reference, like some of the websites I've worked on, Target.com, JackInTheBox.com, MTV.com. I've done a lot of like video on demand, DRM stuff, a lot of really complicated backend systems. Like one of the sites that I worked on was like internationally recognized as like an advancement in database technology. It won awards. That site cost $500K, and that was a really complicated site. So 1.5 million for a relatively simple site is unheard of. Like, I can't even, like, I'm flabbergasted at the cost. Like, I can't even express how ridiculous it is. So, I mean, it's definitely an issue.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jennifer. And then Mark, you have your hand up. I unmuted you. Mark, you need to unmute yourself.
I'm trying. Can you hear me now?
You're unmuted. Go right ahead, sir. And then we'll do Lauren, and then we'll move forward.
Thank you very much. God, I agree with everything she just said. The city has a terrible habit of foisting their responsibilities onto private entities, unquote, that cost 5 times what they should, and they don't monitor them. I see this happening with nonprofits throughout all of Los Angeles. They're ineffective. They spend most of their money on the executive side. Very little of their money actually goes to the cause. This is animals' lives. Money has to go right away to fixing the problem in front of our eyes. We don't need fancy websites that cost $1 million. That is just outlandish. Anybody that would propose a website like that is not trustworthy and not worthy of a city contract in my mind. And besides the fact that the city needs to start doing its own job. I'm tired of hearing them handing it off to private entities that we don't have any access to. We never get any information. They stall and they mislead. And, you know, I mean, I feel like we're all kind of frustrated about the same things here. We need to start really pushing the city and stop accepting their nonsense solutions to problems that we are all paying millions and millions of our tax dollars for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Lauren, and then we're going to move forward.
Kudos to whoever just spoke. We've seen what handing off to outside entities has done for solving our homeless problem. For example, the scandal and the epic failure of the hygiene kit contract that was supposed to keep our unhoused neighbors healthy was just, well, I'm trying to swear less. So I'll just leave that there for the time being. One thing I'd like to know, does anyone have information that these contracts were put out for a bid? I think if we're going to be doing CIPRA, that now is the time to start demanding copies of those contracts and the requests so that we can compare them and just distribute them broadly. You know, send it to LA Taco, send it to Capital and Maine. This is not just a failure. There's something rotten going on here and somebody's making money. I'm not sophisticated enough with financial forensics to find it, but I mean, it just smells to high heaven. You know, it's like we're talking 4-day-old fish now. So if we would consider that as a body, I think that would start to maybe get some traction because it's just outrageous.
Thank you, Lauren. Jamie, hang on. Jamie, go ahead. And then also when you're done, make the motion because you had put it in the comments.
So it was a competitively bid contract. There were a couple other applicants. This one in particular, what I read in the reporting, they brought the cost down and they wanted it because it was like a woman-owned firm, but apparently the mayor had a lot of influence on this particular contract, but still somehow like at 1.5 million, this being the lowest makes no sense because in addition to what Jennifer talked about with the website development part of it, another part of this contract was like raising additional funds. And I looked at the report back on their raising of additional funds. And while again, like the principles were solid, there's between the website contracting and like the raising of funds, the work that they're doing is like the work one should be doing when you're trying to increase funds and fundraising, but it in no way should cost that much. And in addition, they're raising funds slightly, but at the rate that they've raised the amount of contributions, it would take like 10 years just to cover this contract. Like, so it's not paying for itself in the way that they're trying to say that it would. And so the motion I would want to make is that LANCC adopt this letter for the 3 council files referenced and the positions referenced in the thing, which are 22-1111-S10, which is, there's no motion because it's just a general public comment file. 220943, which is against unless amended, and 20-1177, which is against. 20-1177 is the glue contract, and 220943 is the request for more funding of animal services. One of the ways in which they're proposing to look at that is through a ballot measure tax increase, but they don't talk about the issues with volunteering. They don't talk about the issues with managerial staffing. They don't talk about any of that, which is why it's against unless amended, because I am for looking for more money for animal services, but they're not talking about the issues that desperately need to be talked about in that motion. So I'm asking that we adopt the positions as outlined in this letter for those council files.
Thank you, Jamie. Do I have a second?
This is Lydia. I'll second it.
Thank you. We have a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no hands, let's go to the vote. Glenn, can you let everybody know how to vote?
They should by now. Under reactions, green yes, red for no, and coffee cup for abstain. 1 vote per neighbor council.
And I just wanted to clarify, I already recorded that same motion maker and second at the beginning of this discussion. So is this the motion changed, or are we just moving what's in the agenda?
Who were the original movers?
They're the same. It's the same people.
Yeah.
Okay, well then move forward.
Okay.
All right, do we have a count?
Hold on. I'm showing 16 aye, 2 abstain. Are there any vocal votes?
Okay, let's see.
You have 1 no vote from Mr. Wilkinson.
Okay.
Okay, do we have the total?
If there are no
votes. Sorry, yeah, can you please register a yes vote for Kay?
Yeah. 1 against.
Okay, thank you, Kay.
I don't know if that's supposed to be a vote.
Jack?
Yes, I think the motion that was put forth by Koretz and I guess John Lee said they're asking for a report back on the department. It's due in 60 days. I think we ought to make make a little bit of extra effort when anybody goes to the personnel and, whatever it is committee, animal welfare committee, is saying, where do we stand? Who's doing this? And just bust their chops saying, what is the status of the report? My gut feel is that 60 days, is going to be 120 days, and that's if you're lucky. But I think that there needs to be a lot of pressure on them to get this report back. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jack. Okay, with that said, how many do we got again, David?
We had 17-1-2. The votes are starting to disappear.
Okay, all right then. Well then, whatever the last vote was, we'll take it. All right, moving on to the next item. Item 7, survey report back on last month's survey and discussion. Liz, you get your...
Unmuted.
You're unmuted, go right ahead.
Okay. And you have the things. Okay, we can do that without until we get to it. Anyways, this is the first survey of its kind that LANCC has sent out. More than 300 people submitted responses, and 40% of these took the time to write additional comments. We want to thank everyone who participated. Based on the number of responses and the heartfelt nature of some of the comments, LANCC will continue to send out surveys on a variety of issues in the neighborhood council system in an effort to inform not only the neighborhood councils, but also Dunn, Bonk, and the city. Some of the answers just confirmed what we suspected based on complaints over the past year or so. Others are more unexpected, in some cases gratifying. Several people indicated they thought the survey was biased. The questions were developed based on complaints that were brought to LANCC's attention. And the fact of the matter is that people tend to complain more about issues that bother them rather than to spontaneously speak up to say things are going well. The intent was to find out if these complaints were shared by only those few people who made them, or whether their concerns were shared by enough people to indicate there was a problem within the system that warranted investigation. Other people asked about what we meant by freedom of speech. In the United States, the First Amendment gives everyone the right to say what you want, whether people agree with you or not, without being cut off, without criticism, and without being punished. The revised code of conduct introduced by Dunn contains limitations on free speech that some people have called objectionable. Our First Amendment is broader than in some countries where speech is taken in context of society as a whole, having rights that may society as a whole, having rights that may supersede individual rights to lie and be hateful. The United States has few such limits. Democracy is governments by discussion, which is why the neighborhood council system was established to communicate the thoughts of the diverse communities of Los Angeles to City Hall. There are actually two issues. If we're being listened to, which is a story for another day, and if the current system is working, if people feel they're being included in the conversation. If not, we need to find out why and work with all parties to see if the process can be improved. As Lauren said earlier, to help make positive and achievable change. Specific areas of concern were raised by a number of people, including trainings, grievances, interactions with the city clerk, the city attorney, NEAs, Bonk, and more. We hope to address these in future surveys, starting with people's concerns about trainings, which we hope to release as a survey in conjunction with Congress later this month. And now to the nitty-gritty. The survey was on how neighborhood councils interacted with Dunn. The department tasked with supporting them and was scored on a 6-point system. Yes, somewhat yes, neutral, somewhat no, no, and don't know or not applicable. And now we have the screen share. And we'll go through question by question with some of the highlights. These and the comments later will be posted to the LANCC website, so you can look at them at your own pace later on. Number 1, over 30% of respondents felt the department was not supporting them. This goes to 50%, or half of the respondents, if you include somewhat no. Number 2, even more felt Dunn was not or somewhat not responsive when asked for information or assistance. Number 3, however, an even larger majority felt their NEAs were knowledgeable and several individuals were given a shout out in the comments. Number 4, however, almost 40% felt NEAs were not always consistent in their messaging. Numbers 5 and 6, over 2/3 had not filed PRAs and over 80% did not know of or were not applicable if Dunn's responses were timely. But over 85% of the remainder had not received a timely response. This has already been addressed to a certain part today. Numbers 7 and 8. Large majorities felt Dunn did not adequately consult with them on changes that would affect them or accept their recommendation. Number 9. One of the most telling responses was that almost 2/3 of the respondents felt Dunn focused on telling them what to do rather than helping them achieve their goals, a number that jumped to 80% when somewhats were included. And when rephrased as Dunn controlling rather than assisting, the numbers were similar, with only 10% no's. Number 10, over 2/3 yes and somewhat yes felt disregarded or disrespected. Number 11, and a significant majority felt Dunn should not limit their freedom of speech. Number 12, 50% said they hadn't experienced retaliatory behavior from Dunn, which is good, given this, that the survey probably attracted somewhat more of the malcontents. However, almost a quarter replied that they had, and the somewhats took that to over 1/3 of respondents. Numbers 13 and 14. Another huge majority, over 80% yes and somewhat, felt administrative obligations from city agencies limit their ability to work for the communities who elected them and to attract and retain good board members. Number 15, almost 40% felt Dunn asked too much of new board members, and another 25% responded somewhat yes. Number 16, over 2/3 thought Dunn should absolutely not interfere with board motions and community impact statements, close to 80% when the somewhats are added in. And number 17, as mentioned before, a significant majority felt Dunn was trying to exert control over them instead of providing assistance. It shows that we had responses from everywhere, every council district in the city. And it also shows that these weren't just new members or old members. Next one. There was a variety of people, significant number of people over 10 years in the NC system. The survey will remain open for a while yet. So if you know people who have concerns, not just board members, but also committee members and people who used to be on boards, but have since stepped down, please send them the link. This can be in support of these concerns or to point out some of the positive aspects of the Dunn-NC relationship. What this does say is that there is a problem that needs to be addressed. I would further like to give a huge shout out to those who took the time to write in comments. We chose to give people only the one opportunity to help in the analysis of survey responses. So the fact that they waited and they wrote such articulate responses was fabulous. That 40% of people responding took the time showed they were being asked important questions. We also had a few emails with additional comments, which are also included in what we will post. Needless to say, these tended towards the negative and they ran the gamut, including Dunn needs to be reimagined. His lack of leadership, direction, and subject matter expertise lead it to be ineffective, biased, and obstructive. 2, the indication that NC board members can be removed from their functioning positions if Dunn deems that we are being disruptive. 3, I get very frustrated every time there's yet another compulsory training added to the many we already have to take. It's daunting for recruiting new board members, and there is a turnover of board members as a result. My interactions with Shauna have been fantastic. She's responsive and seems truly to care about NC's and her job. She's a shining light at Dunn. Empower LA and BONC should be dissolved and a commission elected by presidents of NCs based on board discussion should monitor the NCs. There were some great suggestions that Dunn would be wise to address also in these comments. All policies imposed by Dunn and BONC should be clearly posted on the website so that Dunn can't make it up as they go along. And Dunn and BONC should be required to file an empowerment statement to show they've considered to what extent proposed policy empowers neighborhood councils or goes in the opposite direction. Another, we've been told to whom we are allowed exclusively to direct any correspondence or statements of opinion or concern. We as a board should be allowed to direct opinions to anyone at any level of government, just as the right for any individual citizen. Also, requiring a set amount of time when the tests are observed. I shouldn't have to waste time if I can finish it sooner. The NEA should be hired from past NC board members who have proven ability to relate to people and understand the city. The Empower LA website still needs a lot of work to remove old information and current information and training dates. And my personal favorite, Dunn is more interested in diversity of color as opposed to diversity of thought. The only permitted thought is the one they approved. Our next steps are to present this information collected to Bonn and the City Council, including incoming council members and remaining candidates. The final opportunity to respond will probably be a few days to a week prior to the latter. In the meantime, we're preparing questions on the issue of trainings. Given the recent focus on anti-bias training, it says something when people mention that they're being excluded by how the trainings are being held, which disenfranchises some board members through language, technology, video only, etc. And that accommodations are not being made in Zoom meetings for seniors and others with hearing, language, and cognitive difficulties. When we're seeing a person's face is very helpful. Anyways, stay tuned. We'd love to hear your comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to thank the committee for working on it and Liz for finalizing it. And I think they did a great job on getting the message out and getting responses. Jamie?
Yeah, I just want to say that thank you to the committee for this work. I think that this echoes a lot of the things that I saw in the data on the Neighborhood Council listening survey, which was also one of the CPRAs that I did that took me quite a while to get a response on, despite it being one document. So if you guys don't have that, I'm happy to forward that to you because I think that there's an overlap there that could, allow for some interesting data analysis. But for me, the thing that resonates the most is this idea that I feel in a lot of ways like the department has kind of forgotten what its core functions are. And its core function should be to help us have our voices heard by city council and commissions in accordance with the charter. Like, that's why we exist, is to speak for our communities, is to do the work of representing our communities on whatever the issue is. And in so many ways, I feel like our voices are being denied, whether that's in city council, it's kind of luck of the draw. If you go there to speak on your CIS, if you'll get called, unless you're going through a whole rigmarole to make sure that you get your voices heard. Commission meetings where twice in the last month, Reseda had timely filed statements and was denied the ability to speak at commission. But that's also aggravated by the fact that the portal by which we submit to commissions has apparently been broken, and not broken temporarily. I'm talking broken for quite some time and in a complete state of neglect. I know that they issued in this monthly profile, it was only 2% this fiscal year that were affected. One, it doesn't matter if one doesn't go through, that's someone's voice that isn't heard. Neighborhood councils put a lot of work into the statements that they do, but not just looking at this fiscal year. If we go back to the previous fiscal year, as best I can tell, because no one from Dunn has actually reached out to me with our metrics yet, so this is all just my own work, 14% of Reseda CISs last fiscal year went nowhere because the portal was in a state of disrepair. And to tell you when I found out that I cried, because I did, because you guys know, I think you guys know that I put in a lot of work into trying to work on the issues that I care about. And to find out that my initial thing for ethics that I've been working on about the municipal lobbying ordinance went nowhere. To find out that some of the stuff on park improvements went nowhere. Like, what are we doing if the priority isn't our voices being heard? And it feels so often like they don't remember that. And I'm gonna stop talking because I'm gonna get emotional.
Thank you, Jamie. Lydia?
Yeah, I want to thank everybody who put together the survey and for everybody who did the survey. I mean, I think it's really critical that we hear what people are facing, what they're dealing with, and when there's good positive things. It's important that we hear. Based on what Jamie just said, I'm not sure if we could do a motion about that issue, but I would like to ask for it to be on the next agenda, that we get a full report on what CISs and systems have not been working. Because if we've gone like a year or possibly 2 or more years, that all the work we do on our neighborhood councils, all the time we spend empowering our community, hearing what they have to say, and being the voice of our community to City Hall, which is our charter mandated job, that if all that work we've been doing has gone into a black hole and our information was never received by those entities, I think that is huge. And I think it's a huge violation of the charter. So I actually am very upset to hear this, and I would like to see further action on that. I don't know if we can do anything about it because it's not specifically on the agenda, but I think if neighborhood councils would have known this, the survey might have ended up a little different. Thank you.
Okay, I've been asked to unmute. Maybe that means Terrence wants me to take the next question, or actually I had a comment because I was talking to Jamie the other day where we heard about this portal issue, but we also shared, and maybe this might be an extension of what we are now dealing with done, or kind of implicitly, the NC funding. There's some comments in the chat about having great NC funding reps. I too have had good ones, and then we were just sharing. The one I've got now is asking for more detail than has been provided on constant contact credit receipts that has been required for the last 6 years. So at a certain point, and this has been the case in the 13 or 14 years that I've been working with funding, either within Dunn or in the clerks, where the interpretation, if there's an interpretation as to what is needed, as opposed to what is addressed in the questionnaire about additional administrative burdens, if there's an audit item that says, oh, well, now we need this in, as opposed to somebody just interpreting the rules differently than the previous staffers, that kind of inconsistency would be good. Less hubris saying, well, this is what is in there. Add these 7 aspects to what you've been doing the last 6 years. If there's a reason for that, great, let us know. If not, it's just your interpretation and you're being conscientious. That's cool too, but that might be an interesting other question here in the future. Valerie.
Yes, hi, Valerie Contreras, Wilmington Neighborhood Council Chair. I just wanted to make a comment about the portal community impact statements. So I was just beside myself when I found out this happened. I mean, our community is counting on us. Our community is involved with our work that we're doing in our committees, our full board. This is why we exist. And I mean, I'm just appalled at this. I can't believe this happened. I mean, I said, I can't even share this with my board yet. It is too big to even try to sit down and talk to them about this. They're going to be blown away. All their hard work. I'm hoping this is like a very short-term thing, that you guys can get this fixed and we could, learn from this and make sure this never happens again. I mean, we have to be able to go back now and see what action we took actually reached City Hall and which ones did not. And how long has this been happening? So our community finds out about this. They have, they trust us. They rely on us. They count on us. And when they find this out, they are going to blow it. And they're just not going to believe that all the action that we have been taking for them really has gone nowhere. So please put this on the next agenda. Please, let's stay on this. Let's see what action we can take regarding this. Thank you.
Okay, and Valerie, please let me know what neighborhood council you're on. So I'll put that in the roll. Glenn.
Yes, I did. I'm sorry, maybe you didn't hear me. Wilmington Neighborhood Council.
Okay, if you're able to rename, that's even more helpful because I'm doing 5 things right now. Thank you, but I got you now.
Absolutely, I'll type.
Okay, so I do want to thank Liz and Doug before her in this work for the committee to bring this to LANCC, getting it out. And I think part of what we are asking is if you didn't get this from the e-blasts and don't think that your neighborhood council board members have yet participated because of whatever reason, that's one reason why the survey was reopened, was to make sure we hear all those voices. So use the link that's in the chat, make sure your board members have it. That's just for folks who haven't yet participated. Number 2, I wanted to say that there are some other topics the committee is looking at, including city clerk, funding, and city attorney service to neighbor councils. So those, there are some other service areas that directly relate to neighbor councils that may be a subject of another upcoming surveys. So thoughts on that would be welcome. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn on that. And then lastly, I do recommend that the issue on the filing of community impact statements be deferred to our next meeting. And the reason I say that is I think we have a little more work to do. Some of you know that I think it was in 2016, I went through the drop-down menu and compared that with all the boards and commissions of the city and notified the department, and this is before our current general manager, that they were missing major entities such as Department of Water and Power, I think one of the other major like Harbor or something like that, as well as many other boards and commissions. And I think half of the ones that are on that drop-down menu as a result of that and a subsequent submittal were that. So my bottom line is that that information for those that were more recently added, they didn't exist. So I just want to make sure when we consider this that we have all the information, because I've heard reports back that some information has been incorrect going back to 2009 or 2007, but I want to make sure we have our facts correct, because again, half of those didn't even exist on the drop-down portal until 2016. So there was, unfortunately, I mean, that's an omission right there. They should always be on. And just as a reminder to all of us, with that in mind, when a few of the new boards and commissions were appointed, such as the new Youth Development Commission and the new Human and Civil Rights Board, as 2 examples off the top of my head, to make sure we're on that. And yes, that did happen last year, or was the year before, getting those up and added. So it isn't a constant process, not just for the department to make sure we're complete, but also for all of us, because we're aware of what's going on in the city, we're of changes. Now, having said that, I just want to say it's very important for all of us, because not only have you sent the CIS, but you want to hopefully show up at the next meeting of these boards and commissions. And I recommend as a best practice, and I will admit, we filed one for the Board of Recreation and Parks Commissioners, and I did not realize that it had an erroneous email address going to the commission. And I know it has not been that address for the commission for at least, I don't know how long, but for years and years and years. But I didn't notice it. We get a receipt. When we file a community impact statement, we get a confirming email. And on that confirming email, it has the name, the email address that our community impact statement was submitted to the department. It's very important to check that, but more importantly, I think, to follow up with the department individually, say, we just filed a community impact statement and we plan to come to the next meeting, or want to confirm you received it and planning to attend your next meeting. Even if the item is not on their agenda, just having that contact, I just reporting that because that's what happened for us, not realizing that the email address was incorrect when we filed in July, and the Park Commission meets twice a month, and it wasn't until it was then forwarded to say, okay, you can now speak. It was September 1st at the meeting last week. We were able to get our additional time for doing community act statement, but it's only because of going outside that process, following up individually, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not saying it should have to be done. You know, that's sort of going above and beyond. But what I'm saying is that even if the system's working perfectly and things come in, having that contact and getting a confirmation for the chair of the commission or board and the staff person is actually critical, saying, yes, this neighborhood council will be presenting a community impact statement verbally at this meeting. So that's my recommendation. Thank
you. Doug?
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank Glenn for adding that additional burden to all of us neighborhood council people. I want to point out something here, and that's this. This is just the latest example of a particular bureaucracy, done in this case, of trying to do everything poorly when they should be concentrating on doing one or two things well. This is not uncommon, unfortunately. But the other thing that this goes to, this survey in particular, is this. The Board of Neighborhood Commissioners, particularly the individual who is the past chair, and the department has acted on their priorities, not our priorities, on their priorities. And frankly, I think it would help us tremendously if they would stop wasting, scarce staff time on policies that frankly do very little to assist us, that create additional burdens for us, and that bluntly, more than a year or two are pretty much ignored anyway. How about fixing some of the broken infrastructure, such as the CIS system? I would think that what we need to do going forward is to speak to everybody, particularly those individuals who are either on the LA City Council or will be coming onto the LA City Council, and into the mayor's office, and into the city attorney's office, and into the controller's office, and say, forget about the priorities of the department, forget about the priorities of the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners, and start paying attention to the priorities of the neighborhood councils. I mean, that's the message we need to be carrying forward. And, this survey is great, but it isn't what's been done, it's what comes next with it. So I just want everybody to keep that in mind.
Appreciate your comments, Doug, and we will be keeping the pedal to the metal, as they say, to get that done. So thanks for that. Jamie, Kay, and then Jennifer, and then we got to move on because we have a time constraint. So Jamie, go ahead.
The longer I do this work, the more I've come to the opinion that neighborhood councils need like a union or a Bill of Rights or something that gives us more authority to be able to deal with problems like this as they come up. And I want to make it really clear that if it wasn't for my efforts with the municipal lobbying ordinance, this would still be a broken system. I had a hunch about something because of my obsession with that council file, and I noticed a discrepancy, and I asked ethics if they could look into it. And ethics then confirmed that hunch, which then led me looking at all of the other commissions that Reseda had filed to and realizing that a disproportionate amount of them were also wrong. So when I hear that, oh, we're going to be going back to January 2022 or this fiscal year, it's only 2%, which is, 2 months, basically. When we talk about this idea of disrespect that was talked about in this survey, those things line up because when a system is allowed to be rotted and broken like this, that is the way in which our voices are amplified, that is disrespect. It is. And it's the irony in this is so it's just layered for me, because I think the way that most of you guys know me is from my work on the municipal lobbying ordinance, which I'm very, very serious about, and I think would make a tremendous difference for the neighborhood council system. But I was trying to bring that to bonk for months, and I was kind of, I've kind of ignored, frankly. And the message that I got was, you should take it to the Ethics Commission. So I did take it to the Ethics Commission. I got a CIS passed in my neighborhood council. I sent it to Ethics. Ethics never received it because the system that we were supposed to use was broken. And it was only when I followed up on my own as an individual that, guess what? When they heard the idea, they immediately rewrote the draft of the law because of my idea. When I explained the problems we were seeing, they were responsive to criticism. They were responsive to a need in our community, but they probably would have been a lot sooner if they had actually received it. So for me to be in good faith trying to do this work and Bob to say, well, okay, well, you need to send it to ethics, and then it was broken. I just, and it still would be broken if I wasn't paying such close attention. And that's not, a system can't function on one person's obsession with one council file, it doesn't work. And yeah, it looks like it's been broken, not since last year, years it's been broken for several commissions. They also had several commissions that hadn't existed since like 2008 among the list of things that you could submit to. So it's clear that across a very long time span, no thought was being given to this. And yet it's a metric that they use to brag about for asking for more money, how many CISs have been filed. But should a CIS count if it went nowhere? I don't think so.
Thank you, Jamie. Kay, then Jennifer, and then I'll let Liz, because since she was the actual presenter to speak. So go ahead, Kay.
Yeah, I have a question about the survey, and that is, do we know how many neighborhood councils responded?
Well, I could answer that because we didn't want to have it identified with neighborhood councils. We used council districts, and we did get answers from every council district that neighborhood councils were in, because we wanted to make sure it was anonymous so that they could feel that they could actually be honest with their answers.
Are we talking about service regions? Are we talking about city council districts?
Council districts, council districts, because we thought that was the easiest for members, because we even had some respondents who said that they didn't even know who their council district was. So if we were to use the regions, that would even be worse. So it's easier that we use the council districts. And that was the discussion we had to look to make it the easiest as possible. All right, Jennifer.
Yeah, I think for me, it's the flippant lack of response to the CIS issue that really speaks loudly to Dunn's disrespect for the NCs. The moment that this issue was brought to light, I asked the department to send notification out to NCs so that we weren't wasting our time filing more CISs that were going nowhere. I asked for this to happen for almost 2 weeks before I took it upon myself to send an email out to all of the NCs, because it was obvious at that point that the department was not going to alert NCs to the issue. And when there is a partial outage such as this, and let's be frank, it's a partial outage, not a glitch, the most important thing is to communicate out to the affected parties and manage expectations. And that wasn't being done. And it looks like from emails that I received from Tom that rather than fixing the issue, they were concentrating on researching how many community impact statements didn't make it to their destination. And when there's an active issue, you fix it first, and then you do your reports and you're investigating. So their priorities and how they handle the issue are just completely skewed. And it's frankly, it's disrespectful to us and the work that we do. And that's why I'm so like incised by this issue, is because it's just, it shouts their disrespect for us, in my opinion. Regarding data about community impact statements and where they were, like what commissions they were filed to, I have CPRAs open, one to the department and one to the city clerk's office. No surprise, the one to the department got pushed out. The city clerk has actually had a phone call with me to discuss what data I need and how to deliver it. So I'm expecting to get a data dump from the city clerk shortly. And when I do, I will make that information public so that NCs can see what they need to refile. Thank you.
Thank you. And Liz, and as I said, next month we will be really addressing this. And since I saw what Glenn had posted in the chat, that Lorenzo is the CIS person, we will point person, we will have him here, or we will ask him to be here. All right, Liz. Let me unmute you. There.
Yeah, okay.
You lost your picture.
I pressed the unmute button, got that instead. Okay, I would like to, after listening to Doug's comments, I would like to see a motion made that LANCC can communicate to all incoming and continuing elected officials to disregard the priorities of Dunn and Bonk and focus instead on the priorities of the neighborhood councils. And I'm not sure if I can make a motion because I'm not an official person.
Okay, does anybody want to make that motion? Do I hear anybody?
I wasn't paying attention. I was in the chat. If you need a motion, Tony will make it. Is this for Liz?
Yes, it's Liz's motion. Yes, Tony.
I'll second. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. Any discussion on it? Oh, Bob's not there. Linda, do you have anything on this motion?
No, it's not on the motion. It's on the CIS.
Okay, we'll be fully discussing that next month also.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we have a move, we have a second. Any discussion? Seeing no hands up, let's go to the vote. Everybody knows, go to reactions.
Can the motion please be repeated?
Liz?
That LANCC communicate to all incoming and continuing elected officials to not prioritize the concerns of Dunn and Bonk and focus instead on the priorities of the neighborhood councils.
The second was Tony?
Yes, it was Tony. And Liz, can you email me that so we could have that so we could get the survey out or just get that out? Thank you. All right, giving it one more minute. Okay, do we have a count?
Please record a yes vote for Kay.
Thank you, Kay.
I make 17.
17, do we have any? I don't see any no's and I don't see any coffee cups.
Agreed.
Okay, motion passes. Liz, send that to me so we can get working on that. All right, going to the next item isn't that Kay? Yeah, Kay or Jennifer, who would like to take the helm this month? Jennifer? Kay?
Yeah, sorry, I was dealing with dogs. Budget Advocates had our first training with Jacob Wexler last Monday night, so like a couple days ago. We will be having our second, hold on, let me switch to not. Okay, I had to switch to not holding the space bar. We will be having our second training with Jacob Wexler on October 3rd. The recording of the first training is posted to our website, as well as Jacob's materials for the training. If anybody would like, Jacob Wexler from the CAO, thank you, Glenn, regarding understanding the budget and the budget process. And if anybody would like to attend the second training, they're more than welcome to. I believe it'll start at 6 p.m. on October 3rd. We will have a virtual table at Congress on the 24th. We're during the second session for tables. And we're just kind of plugging away on our training and signing up for what departments we would like to, each of us would like to go to write the reports for. And we're also looking at how we perform our work and looking for efficiencies that we can achieve in reimagining how we do things to set the organization up for success. Also, many of you probably saw in the monthly update that went out from the department that 11-10-20 is scheduled for committee, I believe, on the 17th. I urge all of the NCs that have filed community impact statements about that, and I know there's a lot of you, to go and make your voices be heard at that meeting, and get your time as a CIS filer to speak on it.
Jennifer, 17th is Saturday, so it's going to be a different
the
day.
12th. It's September 12th. Thank you. Thank you for the correction. It's September 12th. Also, just of note, that date hasn't been updated in the council file, so the only information we have about the fact that that is happening is through the department.
All right, thank you, Jennifer, because I was just going to ask you that question if the budget advocates had any response to that, because I saw that this morning when I was reading the monthly profiles. Sid, you have a question or a comment for budget advocates?
Just a question. In part of the training or part of your questions, I've never heard this brought up in the past about how much outside contracting is done by each department.
We don't usually specifically cover outside contracting, but given the contract irregularities that we've seen, or rather like lack of vendor oversight, I think it's a good way to put it. With various departments, I think that would be a good spot to augment our training in. And I actually think on the 17th of September, is that the Saturday? The 17th of September, we will be having some more training, just not from Jacob Wexler, but I can't remember the topic that training is on at this point in time.
Meeting with departments.
Meeting with departments. Thank you, Glenn.
All right, thank you. And Liz, you're the last one because we're about done with the 5 minutes.
Yeah, the outside contracting is very often done for non-continuing charges. So I think it really does need to be parsed very closely what is appropriate, the oversight issue rather than actually doing it, because I think is value in the city budget not to. Am I starting to not make sense?
No, you make sense. And I think there is value in the city budget to outsource one-time commitments, but I think there also is a blatant lack of vendor oversight and value for the dollars that are being spent. And, I feel that would fall under our purview to look into and comment on, because it still is city money from the general fund, which is what we concentrate on.
Okay, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. All right, moving on to the next item. Lauren, I didn't see Max, so do you have any updates for us? Where's Lauren? I don't. Does anybody see Lauren? I guess she's left the meeting, and I don't see Max, so next month. Okay, going to the next one. Congress and Neighborhoods. Who does that? Do we have a point person on that? I know the Congress is coming up.
Yeah, I don't think we have a point person right now, and unfortunately, I don't know that I can fill in because I've been disengaged for probably a couple months
Well,
from everything.
Kay, at least you want to give the date of the Congress and that it's
I
by
can
Zoom?
do that.
Okay, great. At least it gets that.
The date is September 24th, beginning first thing in the morning, 8 o'clock, and going until, you know, the late afternoon. And there is a meeting today of the planning committee if you want at 1:30, and if you want to participate, there it is. We do have we do have our workshops, you know, filled in, and we're just working on finalizing everything so that we're ready to go on the 24th.
All right, thank you, Kay. And if somebody has the Zoom link for the planning committee, if you could put it in the chat, that would be helpful. Glenn?
Just to add that registration has opened, even though some of the details are still being worked out, but registration's been open, and that word should be taken back to your neighbor, everyone's neighbor councils. And if you can, put it on your agenda for your September meetings. If you've got an agenda coming up between now and September 24th, put the Congress on the agenda, the date and the link for registration. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Glenn. Now moving on to the next item, Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, Ms. Beltran.
Good afternoon, everybody. Glad to have an opportunity to connect with you today. What I would offer is some information that is available to you related to reports we're going to be giving to Bonk on Tuesday. I can't see that Commissioner, that we have a commissioner here today. So if someone could correct me on that so I don't take up his mic, that would be great.
No, actually, we received an email from Commissioner Schaefer that he would be unable to attend and he wasn't able to send a report. So go right ahead.
Well, what I will talk about is what will be on this part of the department's presentation to the commission, and two items that you've discussed today. One is our report on the Empower LA listening survey. That's going to be presented to them on Tuesday, and the documents related to that are available on the commission's agenda as a link. Additionally, we will be making a presentation on the CIS issue that you've discussed. A couple things I would clarify for you today based on some of the comments that were made today is what we're presenting to the commission on Tuesday did not start with the issues that were raised based on filings to the Ethics Commission. If you all were part of the department's presentation on the budget in December and in January to the various alliances, we spoke about what we wanted to do related to fixing the CIS system. So the report you're going to receive on Tuesday relates to that effort that was department initiated in order to come up with a new system. And you'll hear more about that on Tuesday. So the system is one that I inherited. I don't know why there wasn't attention given to it in the past. I can only say that we've been giving attention to it. We've been giving reports on what needs to happen with that system for at least 2 years through the budgetary process. And it's referenced in our proposed budget documents to the mayor and the city council. So you can certainly go back to those and reference those to show that the department has had the intent of addressing that issue. We couldn't do it 2 years ago because of the pandemic and the budget reduction exercises that we all went through for about 18 months. So this is really the first opportunity that we have had in the past 3 years to dedicate some time and energy to changing the system, which has been sorely needed. So we haven't been neglecting the issue, and I hope that you are able to observe the discussion and the presentation that will be made. We're also going to discuss the issue at the bank meeting on Thursday. We've been invited to do that, so we're happy to do that. And We also are hoping to confirm the availability of the new commissioner, Valdivia, to attend the bank meeting on Thursday. So for those of you that attend bank meetings also, if her calendar can accommodate it, we're arranging for her to join that meeting. We also offered to her to send out a communication to you if you would like to have her come to one of your meetings in the future. She's making herself available for those presentations. So just send us an email and we're happy to try to accommodate your calendar and her availability in the future. We are, I'm glad you mentioned the issue of CISs and PRAs, excuse me, because we are alerting neighborhood councils that we have had an extraordinarily large number of, an unprecedented large number of PRAs filed recently. There hasn't been this many PRAs filed in this, at this volume that we can recall. So we are, you might be getting some communication from the staff letting them know that there are going to be possible delays in service to you in order for us to comply with the CPRAs that we've been receiving at such high volume in order to stay compliant. And some of that will include delays in processing ENS notifications as a result of the extraordinarily high volume that we've received. And by the way, there is a public site that you can go to see the filings of the Public Records Act request. And if you're interested in that information, we're happy to share that with you as we move forward. I'm really thankful to hear about the responses you received in your survey. I'd like to, if there's going to be a written report on the survey?
Yes,
that's going to be distributed and shared broadly?
Yes, the committee, they're working on it and we will have one, absolutely.
Okay, great, because what we are going to be sharing is how we are planning to move forward with the responses in the listening survey. And we would like to have your report in writing so that we can look at what your report suggested neighborhood councils were interested, for those who responded, to compare it to how we plan to change our operation to respond to the survey responses we received from neighborhood councils, and fold that into our operational plans over the next year, which is what we'll be talking about on Tuesday. So with your, I hope we can, do you know when we might be able to get that report?
Liz, where are we at with it?
A written report had not been discussed.
Oh, I thought we were doing one because we were putting it all together.
Well, I thought we were leaving things open until we presented to City Council if that was to come to pass.
All right, then I misspoke. I apologize. I misunderstood. Okay.
Busy writing down a note that I needed to do one. So.
All right. Well, we'll be working on that as quickly as possible. All right. Thank you.
Terrence, you might want to consider doing an interim report to show it with the data, you know, at whatever point.
I can certainly take some of what I said and attach it to the pie chart.
Okay, yeah, we could definitely do that. Liz and I will work on it and get something available for you.
Is it possible also to get the raw data?
Yeah,
I would prefer not. Yes,
I mean, in the spirit of transparency, I'm just assuming in the spirit of transparency.
There's an issue of confidentiality, but what I can do is I can send it in two separate pieces so that you can't tell when people put their name in the comments.
Yeah, we could redact that. So yeah, we'll be able to do that. Yes, absolutely, because we have a spreadsheet of the actual data. Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's great. That's great. We're not interested in, and that's fine. I would prefer not to have information about who responded. So I appreciate it being redacted in order to respect the importance of people feeling like they can without concern, I guess. So you all know who responded in what way then? I misunderstood that from what was stated earlier.
We don't.
Well, go ahead, Liz.
Yeah.
You answer first.
We don't, however, in the comments, a certain number of people identified themselves, which would then make their other comments not confidential.
Oh, okay. Because I thought people had to give.
Yeah, and I don't feel comfortable sending it out that way, but we can, Terry and I will talk about it.
Yeah, because we even had one or two who actually put their phone number to have us call them, and we actually did contact them. So we want to make sure that that's not in the report for the whole city to see. So yes, we'll work on it.
Well, what's important to us is to be able to blend that in with how we plan to look at our operation. And it doesn't matter to me that it came from a separate survey that was done apart from ours. You know, the department hadn't ever conducted a survey of NCs that I know of in this form. I was happy to do it. And the information is valuable information. And the information in your survey, in some cases, is consistent with what we received in our survey. And in some cases, it's quite different than what NC's told us in our survey. But for us, what's more important is the more that we hear from neighborhood councils. That's how we want to behind
Hello?
the surveys.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I see that as us working together.
So that's all we're here to do. That's all we're here to do.
I'm glad you feel the same way.
Absolutely. We just want to make a better system. That's it. And I'm sure you have that same principle you want to do too. So absolutely, we'll work together on it. One thing though, from last month, we're going to report back on the ENS service about the storage of historical agendas that weren't being maintained, and you were going to find out about that.
I haven't done that yet. Again, as I've shared, there have been an extraordinarily large number of CPRA requests, and we've had to put some things on the back burner. That was one of them.
Okay.
So we'll try to get to it as soon as we can.
Okay. All right. We'll look for it. Now we have a couple questions. Are you available? Do you have enough time to take questions?
Sure.
Okay. Jamie, Liz, Tony, then Glenn, and then we got to move on. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Jamie.
All right. This issue with the CIS portal, it's not about budget and it's not about money. Could it be benefited from redoing it and having an overhaul? Sure, but we shouldn't even be doing that because the city clerk is already planning to do an overhaul of their system to begin with filings and whatnot. So anything that you do should be after that takes place regardless. However, not getting budget for CIS stuff doesn't excuse not sending about 50 BCC emails once a quarter to see if emails are working. And Tom, in his email response back to Jennifer and I, specifically stated, oh, the last time we checked was around redistricting. So if they did check around redistricting, how did they not take it into account the bounce backs that if they had done those checks, they would have received? Because when I realized that ethics was out, I checked the other ones that Reseda had submitted to by sending a test email. And I got bounce backs from South Valley Area Planning. I got bounce backs from City Planning, Rex and Park, Police, Transportation, Ethics. So if that work had been done, and it would have been literally just sending a BCC email saying, this is a test of the neighborhood council submission system. Can you please reply back? And then when they received those bounces, they could have checked it. In addition, I know that the work to change the email is not something that is significantly time consuming or hard because they were able to change the ethics email once they were given the one that was working within about a day. So again, this is not a question about budget, just kind of like with animal services, actually. This isn't a question about budget. It's a question about priorities and it's a question of oversight. And the fact that we have worked so hard on our CISs and they went nowhere, and then the department didn't tell people, you should be absolutely ashamed of yourself, Raquel. We have worked so hard to try and make things better. and to have them to go nowhere. And I know that you know how hard I've been working on the MLO, and I know that you said you need to send it to ethics, and you didn't even give me a system that worked.
So are you finished? I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you.
I'm finished for right now.
Okay, great. So first of all, I think that there's a couple of things you should know about your advocacy with the Ethics Commission. And that is that at the time that you started coming to the commission to talk about the amendments to the municipal ordinance, I contacted the Ethics Commission staff, let them know that you were coming to the commission and that you had an interest in working with them on this issue. And I did that before Reseda filed at CIS. So the department did reach out to the ethics staff and let them know that you would be coming in their direction at the recommendation of the commission, and that we want, if they needed any assistance from us, that we were happy to do an email connection with you. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, I believe I did send an email to both you and the commission staff so that you could be connected. And I'm just offering that because somehow or another, that's lost in the discussion about how we try to assist you specifically in your advocacy on this issue. Now, the Ethics Commission email that is on file never bounced. It never bounced back to us. So if we do send the blind CCs that you're talking about to the emails that are on our list, some bounce, some don't bounce. So I can only tell you what we did at a specific period of time. And if it bounced, then we contacted those departments and we asked them for current information. The other thing that is important for people to know is that we have been, remember, at about less than 70% capacity in this department. So it is a tedious process. Not that it's not an important process, but it is a tedious process. So we don't have the capacity to do this, have not had the capacity, I should say, to do this every quarter. We have done it periodically. And the last knowledge I have of us doing it was when the redistricting commission was formed. So the other thing that I want to mention is we're not saying that we asked for additional money. When I refer to the proposed budget, we asked for an allocation to be able to create a new system based on what we understood at the time would be the cost of putting together a new system. And that money wasn't allocated to us. However, we are still doing it. That tells you that it was a priority for us. That should be a clear signal to you that it was a priority. And that's what we said when I went on the road talking about the proposed budget and what the department's priorities are in full transparency. Now, I don't know where you got the information that the clerk is going to come up with a new system that relates to boards and commissions. The clerk doesn't support boards and commissions. That's why we had to come up with our own system. We're already meeting with ITA. We're already meeting with the clerk's office. They don't support boards and commissions. So I don't know what information you're talking about. But you just pay attention to the presentation we're going to make on Tuesday. And at that point, you'll have an understanding of how we're moving forward with this issue, which is what we were doing already. So I think it's really important that people have facts about the situation. I know that it's important. That's why we made it a priority as soon as the fiscal year started to try to get in conversations with our partner departments to say, we need to fix this issue. It's a real problem. And it's not right that neighborhood councils don't have a system that meets their needs. We've already been in touch with CIS filers who are cooperating with us. Oh, sure, they're having no issue working with us to try to make the system better.
Is she done? May I respond? I don't want to interrupt.
I'm finished at this point.
Okay.
At this time. Also, thank you.
Okay. All right. And then we got Liz, Tony, and then Glenn.
Thank you, Raquel. I appreciated the information. Just so you know, I complained to the city clerk's office about significant problems in the CIS system when I was on a board over 5 years ago. So it's really great that you're working on updating the CIS system now. However, what really concerns me is the fact that Dunn seems to have made no effort other than to verbally advise people at alliance meetings, which are not always attended as well attended as one would like them to be. But to keep all NC board members informed of issues affecting the filing of CIS and what they can do as a workaround. Every single board member should have been advised, and and their NEA should have reminded them whenever they voted in CIS. Can you address that, please?
Yeah, I can address it. And it's to say that, the representation that has been made was that CIS has went into, I think the term was the ethers. So it's real difficult for us to respond to things that are not necessarily accurate. So oftentimes what I'm being asked to do is to say, so-and-so and so-and-so said that this happened. Why haven't you told us that this happened? When in fact, that's not what happened. So what we plan to do is to work on the issue. What we plan to do is to keep neighborhood councils informed of how we are working on the issue. And that is what we've been doing since we started to embrace improving the neighborhood, the CIS system from the start. And I just can't have my resources redirected from that. We've kept neighborhood councils informed of accurately of the circumstances, and that's what we will continue to do.
Okay, my misunderstanding, I was under the impression that neighborhood council board members were not informed of that there was a potential problem, nor were they told any ways of working around it. Thank you for your answer.
No, what I've said is that we've been working with neighborhood councils. We went back to take a look at what CISs were filed. We've been trying to verify whether or not the boards and commissions related to those CISs received the CISs, and we're communicating with the NCs related to those CISs. So that's how we're planning to proceed. And I think that's responsible and effective. And I think it's important that we work directly with the CIS filers. A lot of things are coming from that. So we found people, CISs being filed by board members that aren't even on the board.
Thank you.
So
Tony?
there are a lot of issues.
I didn't mean to cut
many,
you.
many,
I apologize.
No, that's okay. It's just to say there are many, many, many moving parts to this issue, and we're working with those neighborhood councils individually to try to address them based on the specific circumstances related to the CIS, that neighborhood council filed, and the people who were involved in that process. That is being responsive to neighborhood councils in my view.
Okay, thank you. Tony?
Three
Glenn,
quick things.
Jamie, and then we got to go.
First of all, I realize we have some passionate advocates in the room today. However, I remain thankful to Thomas Sung and the department for what I still believe was a transparent, yes, it is our system and we're working on it message. I think that was great. And I also think that when we have the general manager here to discuss mutual problems, this is not a forum where we all should be ganging up and trying to make a court case, a legal case that gets, it's not a court, we're discussing problems that are mutual problems. Number two is, and I do want to make a statement here, everything at the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment is about budget and staff. It's chronically understaffed. If people leave, it doesn't count whether or not they ask for the budget and the position is open, the person isn't there. And number two, there's obviously a difference of opinion on how to use staff. For example, a general manager would love to, I think, see more NEAs to attend more of our meetings, whereas Tony might want to have some of those folks working on liaison groups, which we haven't had for a while because of short staff. So, I mean, there's always a staff balancing thing going on. So I think we need to be a little bit more generous with that. Thirdly, as a member of the working group for constructive change, but not in charge of anything, I personally don't see anything wrong with sharing our data. I just want the general manager to know that it's just a new task which wasn't anticipated, including sanitizing comments and so on. And I do hope that we work together on this. And in that regard, I also, probably because I don't know where it is, would love to have the same kind of data that you'd asked for the outside consultant survey, which I still worry included large numbers of people in the general public as opposed to neighborhood council board participants. But I'd like to see, for your listening survey, outside survey, which I still commend you for doing, but where can I find, because as you know, none of us can find anything on the Parallel website. It's not your problem, DWP has the same problem, but where can I go to find your background data in a similar way so I can understand that report itself? And that's all I've got, and thank you for being here.
Well, I appreciate it, Mr. Wilkinson. The report on the listening survey is on the commission's website. If you go to the commission's agenda under the general manager's report, there's a hyperlink to the data review and the presentation. And then later on today, we'll be uploading a full report. So that'll be completely transparent and available. We're also going to add the raw data. So the same process we use for the EVG report, the same process we use for the awareness and engagement report, that's the way in which we have been open and transparent with all of you. We share the presentation, we share the report, and we share the raw data and the top lines on the responses. I'll be happy to send it to you directly so that you don't have to search for it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Glenn and Jamie, and then we got to move on.
Okay, just a couple of comments. First of all, I think it's a false choice to choose between fulfilling California Public Records Act requests and getting the neighborhood council agendas posted to the early notification system. And I say false choice not because I don't acknowledge that both may be time consuming, but they are both legally mandated responsibilities. And I think, yes, you could point to the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners wording in the agenda posting policy, that says as soon as possible, but that doesn't mean not at all, number one. Number two, it should be all hands on deck. It should be NEAs, it should be the supervisors, and frankly, if it needs to be the general manager, you get the agendas posted, not 2 hours before the meeting, but you get them posted within 24 hours of submittal. I think that's a fundamental job responsibility of the department. There are tens of thousands of our stakeholders who have subscribed to receive those agendas. So I want to put that out there. And also related to agendas, and this goes back to the issue of how long we retain the agendas on ENS. I had a conversation about that with Semi Park when she was in her position. It was her decision that moved it from basically unlimited, years and years and years, as some of them you can find still on there, to make it 3 months. That was her decision, but it's a simple setting in the portal, in the ENS portal. It may have to be done 99 times for each neighborhood council, but literally I could have done it during the course of the meeting today and changed the setting from 3 months to 20 years or never expire, and the agendas be there. That is truly not what I would call a staffing challenge. That is clicking a box in the ENS portal. I've seen it, and this just blows my mind. All right, my last comment, and please indulge me. I've mentioned about the CIS in terms of the boards and commissions. So I will prepare a report for the commission meeting on Tuesday, but and I would have put it in chat here, but I had to use a second device. So there were two submittals to the department that I mentioned. One was in 2016, identifying a number of boards and commissioners that were not included with our ability to file. Then when something happened with the Board of Animal Services Commission in August 2020, that's what started a second search. And that generated an email from me to Lorenzo Bricinio, identifying that in addition to the other ones that had been added 4 years prior, that there were 12 additional ones that had not been included, including two that were relatively new creations. And I just want to put it on record so everyone knows. This would be the second batch of 12. I just want to go through these really quickly. Board of Animal Services Commissioners, Board of Fire Commissioners, Board of Public Works, Cannabis Regulation Commission, again, relatively new. Civil and Human Rights Commission, also new. Commission on Community and Family Services, Commission on the Status of Women, Cultural Affairs Commission, El Pueblo Commission, Human Relations Commission, Innovation and Performance Commission, and Small Business Commission. Those were never in the ENS filing system drop-down menu option until I brought that to the department's attention in September 1st, 2020. Lorenzo got those up within a month. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm happy to do that. I'm happy as an unpaid person to bring that to the department's attention, as long as the department does things on its side, which is get them up, keep them up, add them as necessary, and then get the correct email address to forward. I will take responsibility to say that I didn't notice, for example, when we filed for Recreation and Parks Commission, that was an incorrect email address. Had I paid attention to that, when we got the confirming email, we get a confirming email once we file the CS. If I'd noticed that, I assure you, I would have brought that to the attention, not only to Department of Neighbor Empowerment, but also the Board of Recreation and Park, the Parks Department, Recreation and Parks Department. And so I think, all of us have a stake in this. All of us can help participate in the solution. But some of these things are really, this is not a budget issue. It's not a staffing issue. It's just a question of doing it. If it takes a couple of hours to do it, that should not be an impediment to have to wait a long time to get it done. Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Bailey. I have not looked at the issue related to retaining ENS agenda, so I can't comment on that. I just haven't dealt with it, and it may be as simple as you suggest, and I'm not questioning whether or not it's as simple as you suggest. To everything else that you said regarding the time and energy that you have spent on the CIS issue, first I just want to commend you. It's just an example of a lot of the hard work that neighborhood councils put into trying to advance their advocacy with the city. And I don't have anything to say about all of that other than it just shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't have to do that work. It's not right. It's not right. You shouldn't have to check. You shouldn't have to see if those emails are on there and if they are correct or not. I don't believe that's your work. I appreciate that you did that in the past. You did it because you care, as have other CIS filers and neighborhood council leaders. I just don't believe that's appropriate for the city as a whole to put neighborhood council leaders in that position. That's not how it was supposed to work. And I also believe that departments that have these boards and commissions should have some level of responsibility for keeping us informed when their people change and move. That's why sometimes the emails don't bounce, because it had an employee, that employee still works for the city, they're somewhere else at another department. Why they must be still getting the emails from us. They must still, I'm assuming they're still getting the emails from you all when you file your CISs. My mind goes to, well, like, did it occur to you to let Empower LA know that you don't work for that department anymore and that you're getting these CISs as a courtesy to let us know? I don't understand that. That's frustrating for me. I would be bothered if my staff did that. That bothers me. And so that's kind of an example of like, well, us needing to really communicate with departments, other departments, about working with us to keep this database current. I shouldn't have to have worked that hard, and you should never have had to do all the things that you did, Mr. Bailey. That was just plain wrong in my view. Because when the system was set up, the charter was very clear that neighborhood councils were supposed to be able to advocate with departments about the things that were important to you. That stuff is supposed to work, and the city should be honoring that and respecting it by having a system that works. I'm committed to making that change. I'm going to spend the time and energy on it. I'm not asking for additional resources to do it. I just want to get the job done.
All right, thank you. And I can't say I was happy to do it, but I was pleased to do it because the department responded, they got it done, and it helped us all. It just, I don't think any of us want to reinvent the wheel. We want to make sure that things are fixed and kept current. So thanks. And on the keeping of the agendas in ENS, I was actually sitting there with Semi Park, and we were actually looking at the the system. So I can assure you, I mean, you're welcome to do that, with your with her, her corresponding person you have there now. Yeah. Have them show that to you and just say, hey, this is where you check, put in 3 months, put in whatever. It's right. It's literally that simple. Again, may have to be done 99 times. It's a setting in ENS though, and I saw it. Thank you.
Thank you. No, I believe you. I believe you. I'll take a look at it. And by the way, to the comment about having to look at staff resources, in order, and the importance of sending out ENS notifications. And you're right, the commission policy is that, we'll do it as is feasible. I just can't underscore it for you. I'm trying to share with you that in the CPRA requests that we have received recently have skyrocketed, just skyrocketed. I'm up until 2 and 3 in the morning responding to them. And they just keep coming. And I cannot ask my staff to be up at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning to respond to these Public Records Act requests. So we have to make adjustments in order to try to respond to them in a timely manner. It's only a situation that has occurred because of recent increases that are unprecedented. They are just unprecedented. I'm sorry, but we have an obligation to respond to them. We have a system in place to keep track of them and to see where we are with them. And it's just, you can go to the PRA site yourself and see what's happening there. But we're doing our best to try to respond in a timely manner within what the law requires. It's just an awful lot,
Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Jamie, then Doug, and then we're over time, but we'll allow the two. Please go.
One, I do not have an email from you to ethics. I do have an email asking me for who my contact was at ethics, suggesting that I lobby bonk, and you responded thank you to that, but there was no communication. I'd love it if you would forward me that email that you sent to ethics, but that was not a communication that I was included on. And it would have been great if you had communicated that to me when it occurred. I don't want to make it a CPRA because it sounds like you're underwater, but if you could just do me the courtesy of forwarding it, that would be great. Two, for the presentation on the listening data, the raw data is not included as an attachment. I would really appreciate it if you would make the raw data available so that everyone could freely access it. In the interest of transparency.
Yeah, it will be. That's what I shared with you, that we're going to do what we've always done.
Great. I'm not done yet though. I'm not.
Let me just respond to that because
no, please. I'd rather get through all my points first. If
that's okay. I just want to restate what I said earlier, which is the same thing that
Raquel, I didn't interrupt you. Can you please not interrupt me when I'm making a statement?
Will be uploaded onto the Google Drive as we have done for all the other surveys and reports that we have released. Thank you so much.
Okay. 3, I agree with Glenn about the ENS system. Just flat out, it needs to be fixed. So 4, there's like too many things, but you said that the neighborhood councils that have cooperated with us on this CIS issue, I know for a fact that Reseda is affected because I've done the work to look into it, but yet I've had no communication from the department at all about Reseda's particular filings. So it's not a matter of not cooperating. I've had no communication about our filings, and I haven't saved every single email for the receipts. So I'm not actually 100% sure how many were affected unless I go back through our minutes over and over and over again, which I'm at the step where I'm going to do that. But it's not a matter of cooperating or not cooperating if there's no communication from anyone in the department. And given that I'm the person that discovered the issue, you would think that somebody would have reached out at this point, but no. So that's kind of a problem. 3, where I'm at. 5, I have the bounce backs for when I ran a test of the ones that I knew existed. Some of those email addresses, yes, they were going to people, but some of those email addresses were going to email addresses that haven't existed in that formatting for literally years. So, you know, I can certainly see how it may be an issue of it being the wrong person, etc. But again, it doesn't, it's an impossibility for there not to have been bounce backs when these email addresses haven't existed for literally years in some cases, which is something that I have confirmed separately with departments. So again, it doesn't hold water. It also, to Glenn's point, he shouldn't have had to do that work. I shouldn't have had to do this work, but we're happy to, because we want the system to work. What's not okay is the way in which the department treats us for doing that work. You know, it'd be nice to get a thank you for discovering a system was broken that should be uplifting all of our voices, but that's not how this has gone down. And in fact, we've been oftentimes treated for wanting to represent our communities and have our voices heard as if we're a pest or a gadfly. And I don't think any of us are not here in good faith, and we should deserve to be treated like we're here in good faith.
Are you finished?
Yes, she is done.
Okay, great. So when I refer to, you know, we reached out to you to work with you around the CIS issue. And your response to us was that you didn't feel like you should have to do our work.
That was
So
my response. Jamie and I are different people.
Okay, but we also had a similar kind of response from Jamie. So at that point, I understand the frustration that people feel. I understand it. The only thing I can do is to continue to focus on fixing the problem. There are emails that are very old emails. It is correct. I can't explain why when we send a communication out in the form in which you're suggesting, which is a blind CC, and in our cases, we may not do a blind CC, we'll send it directly, why it didn't bounce back. But in some cases, they didn't. And that's why we're meeting with ITA, and we're meeting with the ITA staff in the clerk's office to say, how is it that the recipient or the sender, the CIS filer, got something back that said that their CIS was received, but when we sent it back out, we're not getting the same response. There are a lot of issues like that, and it's ridiculous. So we're trying to figure out what's happening on the back end at this level of detail now. And we've been working on that just to try to make sure that the current list is functional. In the meantime, I just want to do a whole new system. And I'm going to keep putting time and energy into developing an entirely new system. Frankly, based on what I've learned up to now, I don't think it's going to be that complicated. But I just want to continue to focus our time and energy and to apply our resources to that end. So I think it's respectful on our part to reach out and say, thank you for communicating with us about this frustration. Can you do these things for us? We're trying to figure some stuff out on the back end. It's such a maze of experiences on the back end that only by working with somebody one-on-one can we kind of test different kinds of things. Send us what you got so we can send it back to ITA and send it to the clerk's office so we can compare notes to help us understand, why is this happening this way here? Why is this happening this way there? It's not the same in every situation. So in the meantime, I just want a new system. And that's where we're going to continue to spend our time and energy.
Okay, thank you. Doug, you have the last one, and then we must move on.
Yeah, am I the only one here who's really happy that the city of LA is not in charge of designing self-driving cars?